To slip every now and then, so
shame
please
on
don't
you.
mind.
You're a podcaster.
And we're good.
We're good.
Mrs. Rlene Steffy, or shall I say, Auntie Rlene. As we were walking up the stairs, we sort of figured that out, and it's nice to know. It's nice to know that what I'm doing ain't so far along of what I should be doing. You know, it's now I have a relative who I know has been in sort of the realm of talk radio, talk shows, and stuff like that. And let me give everyone the reason why I brought you on.
I would like to know myself.
I was at a work training, and Rlene did a presentation, and within two slides, I said to myself, holy shit, I need to get her on the show. I was like, I really need to get her on the show. And I sat through your whole entire presentation. My hands were sweating. I was like, man, like what is it about you? It's just the way you presented yourself to everybody and the passion that you had. I was so attracted to the passion that you were putting out of everything that you've done from the documentaries to recording interviews with World War II survivors. And before I start giving away everything that you did, let's go to the beginning for you. You know, where did you grow up here in Guam? Where did you go to school? What made you get into communications and stuff like that?
Okay. Well, first of all, my parents, First of all, my parents are Jesus Leon Guerrero Santos and Federica Flores Santos. My mother's maiden name is Federica Pangilinan Flores, and she is the daughter of Francisco Uggan Flores. Now, when we walked up the stairs and I saw Tony's picture, his campaign banner there, I said, "What are you to him?" And you said, "That's my father." Well, the reason that Tony and I are related is through through the great grandfather.
Okay.
Now, Anita, your auntie Anita, and I went to school together at the cathedral, so we've been very, very close throughout the years.
For a very long time.
Yes, I interviewed your grandfather because Uncle Ben is someone I knew growing up, and Nanlolite is his mother. And so Nanlolite and my grandmother were very, very close, and we used to come down to the house right here
right down the street.
in Hagåtña, right?
Yeah, and you know, when I think about when I do this podcast and like living down, now that I like live down here in Hagåtña and kind of do my passion here in Hagåtña, and then I think about the corner where my grandfather grew up, right? So sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, that's what conversation is all about, right? All right, so my mother, Freddie, was born in Saipan, and all her siblings were born in Saipan. She is from the daughter of the second wife, my grandfather's second wife, Maria Pangilinan. And Mom says that it was a match making going on, because his first wife, who was Tatambodic's daughter, Maria, died prior to the war, and they had a son, Edward. He was, I believe, Uncle Eddie was 2 years old when his mother died, and so the family was concerned for, obviously, Tata's son and Uncle Eddie, and my grandmother was single, and so they invited her to Saipan for fiesta or something. I don't remember. Invited, quote unquote, right? With intentions, right?
Hey, man, grab a napkin real quick, dude.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I just don't want to,
with intentions to introduce them, and they fell in love, and within the year they married, and then my mother is the eldest of the second set of kids.
Okay.
So I grew up. Uncle Eddie, unfortunately, died very young, and I didn't know him. He had two sons, my cousin Donald, who was a mayor in Saipan, and then my cousin Edward, which we call Junior. And Junior died first, and then Donald died. And so the only surviving sibling is Angie, my cousin Angie, I'm very, very close to Angie. And nobody any longer is in Saipan. So Mom comes to Guam in 1948 after the war. They survived the war, all five of them, and their parents survived the war, World War II in Saipan.
Because Saipan was more of a friendly towards the Japanese, right? Okay.
But they survived it there. And then because my grandmother was from Guam, my grandfather was born in Palau because they were one of the earliest diaspora that left Guam to Micronesia. This is way before the diaspora to the U.S.
Yeah, I heard you can find Uggans in Palau.
That's our family.
Okay.
Yeah, Francisco Uggan Flores. My grandmother is Josefa.
And they pronounce it differently, right? It's like Aguan.
No, it's Uggan.
It's Uggan? Okay.
Yeah, the Chamorros pronounce it Uggan. The Palauans pronounce it Aguan.
Aguan.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's Uggan. So anyway, they come over to Guam because anyone prior to 1950, the United States said that anybody who was from Guam, who had moved to any of the outer islands or any of the islands in Micronesia, could come back to Guam before 1950 to become a United States citizen under the Organic Act. So my grandmother said, and my grandfather said, let's take the kids back to Guam so that they could become U.S. citizens. My grandfather was born in Palau, so he was not a national. And I'm still not clear what the Chamorro people were because they were not U.S. nationals. I think they were just people from Guam.
Just
their
natives.
political status,
Yeah.
Or Spanish nationals, maybe, but I don't even believe they were that. Yeah, I don't even believe they were that.
That's very interesting.
They were never officially made nationals.
Of Spain.
Yeah, right.
Right, yeah.
It's just that they were occupied, right, by Spain and then Japanese. So, and nobody became a Japanese national either.
Yeah.
So, in 1950, when the Organic Act was signed, everybody that was here became an Organic Act citizen. And so my parents met and married in 1954. And my mother was very afraid of traveling to Asia. My father wanted to take her on a honeymoon to Asia. And she said, oh, mga sus, so she was so afraid that they would not be able to return. So her U.S. citizenship was still pretty new, and she was very concerned about what could happen if they went to Asia and not be able to return. So
just because of the prior relations that just happened
it was just a new status.
Okay.
You know, mom was born in Saipan and under the Japanese occupation, right, in 1932. So here she just became a U.S. citizen. And so it was all pretty new, and she wasn't about to take a risk. So they didn't go on a honeymoon. And then, of course, the three of us were born. I was born in 1955.
Okay.
My brother Philip was born in 1956, and my brother Frank was born in 1964. So I grew up, I was born at the Oka, or the old GMH.
The old GMH, right.
Right, in Tamuning. And then we lived on Agana Bay, where my grandmother's house was. My parents had a separate building built closer to the beach. My grandmother had a 2-story house with the papasatgi, and then the papasatgi eventually got closed out, and she rented out little units to single men. And then my parents, when my mom was ready to get married, they built a 1-bedroom living room, a porch, and an outside kitchen bathroom area in front of Nana's house, or I should say behind, closer to the beach. So I grew up in Agana Bay, over by Alupang Beach. We're Uncle Jim's property now, Jimmy D.
Okay.
That's my mother's youngest brother.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So Uncle Jim inherited half of the property, and Uncle Frank inherited the other half of the property.
Yeah, I saw Uncle Jimmy D at the Island Music Awards, and he was being honored
mm-hmm.
as a local legend. I believe it was a legend, and
he's definitely should be credited for that.
Right, for sure. And I
got a phenomenal voice.
I was telling him who I was, and he goes, man, if I can thank your grandma today, I would really thank her today, because the Huff a Day song, right? And I was like, man, it's such an honor to me. I've never met him in real life until that very moment.
Yeah.
And that was just last year.
What did he say about Tanolite and the Huff a Day song?
Okay, so my grandma, oh man,
You don't have to play
where
it.
is at?
I just want to hear it. I want to know what he said because I don't even know what he said.
So my grandma owns the Huff a Day song, and she didn't want any royalties or anything about that from him performing the song. This is a song of our place.
Right.
That's always been her mentality.
She wrote it?
No, she owns the rights to it. It was written by, oh my goodness, why is it passing me right
Go get
now?
it.
Yeah.
Where is
let me grab it really
pull
quick.
it.
Let me take a quick pause here. Keep it in this book.
Oh, okay.
So this is it right here.
Okay.
And so that's my grandmother.
Oh, Bill James, Uncle Bill.
So yeah, the copyright's on the back, and this is the version that Uncle Jimmy D performed and took to the States and stuff. And
Regalario. The words and music by, in English, and Japanese, Dick Mine. Okay. Yeah, Uncle Jim sang this. Huff a Day. How are you?
In America,
Philippines,
they
right?
say, how are you?
Yeah.
In the Philippines,
Kamusta kayo? Yeah. I remember that growing up. I didn't realize.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
how did she get the copyright? What's the story?
I do not know the history behind how she got it.
Then I need to ask him
Yeah, definitely.
to preserve that story.
Yeah, I never asked her. Maybe I'll find out from my dad too, and I'll let you know. Send you a text or something.
So where did you get the copy of the? Is that a 45?
This is a 45.
Okay.
Yeah. So
See,
this is
I'm
the
old
original.
enough to know that.
This is the original copy, and it's been in our family for years, and I
Okay.
just ended up with it. I
Very
had
good.
my record player, and I just keep it close.
Right. Good for you.
Yeah. Little
Well,
museum artifact, right?
Absolutely. Let me get a hold of Uncle Jim and ask him what the story is behind that, and I'll share it with you.
Yeah. And
Okay. So going back to that, I grew up in Agana Bay,
okay.
and then I believe, growing up in Agana Bay, my mom worked for Calvus Insurance. My father worked as a revenue agent with Revenue and Tax. And I went to the cathedral by the time I was in the first grade. First grade. I stayed there till sixth grade, very unhappy with that school. Oh, it is not one of the best memories I have. But it's what it was, right? And the experience, I think my father noticed that something was wrong because I became very withdrawn from that experience, being at the cathedral. And I don't know how the discussion came up or whether it was coincidence with us moving to Chalambago. But my mom said that we were going to go to GW Junior High. Or my father said that we were going to go to and at the time it was George Washington Junior High School.
Okay.
And I was so happy to hear that I didn't have to continue to go to that school. So
what was it about it? I mean, if you can think about it now and how it made you how it made you feel.
I was happy till the third grade.
Okay.
I enjoy school. I like learning. It's just the nuns. They were really, the nuns that I had in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade were just really mean women.
It wasn't like the Sister Act nuns, right?
The Sister Act, far from it. If they were, I would have been grooving. I wasn't grooving. I was mourning. I was like, dreaded fear. I don't want to go to that school. But when she told us, or when my dad, I believe, told us that we were going to go to George Washington because we were going to relocate to Chalampago. Not that Chalampago was that far, right? But he said, I think we're going to move the school. And I started singing. I was a happy camper. And my mom commented that I was much happier. And that's when I soared. I went to George Washington Junior High School, and I was immediately within the first, I think it was in the first month or month and a half, I was asked to join journalism, the yearbook staff. And of course, at that, you're seventh grade, you do what your teachers tell you, right? You say, oh, okay. And then in the 8th grade, I was asked to run for Stuco. No, not Stuco. I was asked to run for 8th grade representative to Stuco. And I said, okay. And then in the 9th grade, I was asked to run for Stuco president. And I said, the only reason I would do that is that I found out that the individual who was running, Henry Chin, was running unopposed. And I'm a real firm believer that there's no choice if there's no choice. If there's only one candidate, that is not a choice. That is I don't know. I don't even know what to call that. But
tyranny.
I wouldn't go that far. But that's not a choice. People don't have a choice if you're setting up one person to run. You're not giving them an option,
it's
right?
Like Putin running unopposed for the last.
Whatever. It's people need to choose. If there's no choice, then, it's a default kind of, So anyway, I said I would only run because no one was running against Henry, and there was a landslide election. It was incredible because I didn't intend to win. I just wanted to give them a choice. So I remember being called up to the platform up at in the gym.
And what grade was he in?
We were both 9th graders.
Okay.
We were both 9th graders. And he was very unhappy because he ran for 7, ran for 8, and ran for 9. And in 7 and 8, he just like shoe-in, right? There's the word, shoe-in.
He's the defending champion.
Exactly. Right. And I just like, sure, throw me in there. And I really didn't I really wasn't I wasn't running to win. I was running to give a choice, opposition. And I made no promises. I got up and I said, if you want a promise from me, you're not going to get it. That's not why I'm running. I'm running to give you a choice, and this is what I think we need to do here at school. And I don't remember exactly what platform, but I do remember leaving the school by building these little chairs or benches outside in the lawn so that we could be outside in the sun and not have to just sit in the hallways during our breaks, so we could enjoy the birds and we could sit outside and get some sunlight. And so we had somebody on this island donate these concrete beach park benches, and they were scattered all over the yard. And it was really nice to see, somewhere for us to sit. We didn't have shelter, but that didn't matter. I wanted sunlight. I wanted birds. I wanted, be in the air. And it was really nice. And I just went up to George Washington recently to give 2,000 books to the Chamorro Studies program. And I noticed that walkway where we used to get up on the buses, they have since been enclosed, and now they're like little classrooms. So I thought, wow, that's really changed. But some of the concept of the park bench is still there. I don't think that's the same park benches that even though it was concrete, I don't remember what they look like, but I think we had 8 or 10 that were donated, and the students utilized them very much.
So that was like a real big change for you, going from the private school to the public school, and sort of opening yourself up to different possibilities of things that you didn't expect. I mean, look, you're basically, everything started from you, it sounds like, when you joined the yearbook club
in the 7th grade
and journalism in 7th grade, and sort of planted that seed for you. Yeah.
Not really seed. I'm just, I don't know. Somebody just said, Arlene, why don't you do this? And I said, okay, I'll do it. And I've been like that my entire life. I mean, the only opportunity that I've never jumped at is to run for politics, because I really don't like it. That's not my calling. That's not something I want to experience,
Right.
I'm very good at government. I mean, I did very well in high school. And by the way, by the time when we got up to the 10th grade, Henry ran again, and I ran against him, And I beat him, and he stopped running, and I stopped running. I had no reason to run.
And it's all for the chase, huh?
No, it was for the option. I don't have a political need. I didn't care to be president or vice president. I wasn't ambitious in that regard.
So you didn't find any real purpose in doing it?
Not for politics, no. No. When it came right down to it, it was really, I really believe in democracy about choice. I believe that there should be a choice.
Right.
And if someone's not given a choice, then that's a default. That you're predicting what he can have. So
may as well call him king. Right?
I don't know what you want to call him.
College. Where'd you go to college at?
I didn't.
You didn't?
UOG.
Okay.
But I didn't finish. Personal circumstances. My first husband, unfortunately, cheated on me, and I lost a baby, and I had to go to work.
And
never went back.
And that's where sort of you in mass communications sort of started?
Oh, no.
No?
No. I my second marriage, I got pregnant, and we built a house, and I had this wonderful, grandiose idea that I was going to stay home and take care of my kid till she was 3 years old, which is, I thought that's the way it should be done. My mom took care of us, and after we were old enough to go to school, she went back to work.
Very traditional sort of lifestyle, yeah?
I don't want to have a baby and have someone take care of that baby. I want to take care of that baby.
Yeah. Is that a bug flying in front of you?
I don't know what that is. Yeah,
you can just,
so.
yeah, just.
That's okay. So my ex-husband now said, I can pay for this house, but if you want furniture, you're going to have to work.
Yeah.
And I said, what? Work? And so
Didn't you see what I was doing for the last 9 months?
Yeah, really. And so I said to my cousin Janice Santos, who's a nurse, I said, Jan, I need to look for a job. And she said, there is an opening for an account executive position at KOAM. Go apply for that. That is so you. Mm-hmm. And I went, account executive is me?
Yeah.
I never sold anything in my life.
Yeah, it's these fruit flies. Hold on. What's going on here?
I don't know. Something's left out.
Yeah.
And
sorry about that.
And she said, but you are such a people person, and you have to sell something. You have to go. You can do this. You did this for the yearbook. This is a no-brainer, right?
The yearbook.
Yes, exactly.
How old were you then?
Well, I was 22.
Okay. So
in the year,
you're in yearbook in 7th grade.
7, 8, 9.
Okay.
10, 11, 12.
Okay.
So 6 years of selling ads to the people of the business community. They knew me.
Yeah.
Right? They knew me.
Okay. It makes sense now.
Yeah,
yeah.
So Janice says, Rlene, this is a no-brainer. Go apply for the job. So I said, okay. And I got ready. I called them and I said, I'd like to come down and apply for the job. And they said, fine, it's during these hours for interview. So I went down, and I had not even finished filling out the application form. The lady came in to me and said, Mr. Rosen would like to see you now. And I said, I'm not done filling. She said, don't worry about it. And I said, okay, I'll finish it later, right? So I go in, and there's this man who's sitting like he's just been transplanted from Las Vegas. I promise you. He looked like Mr. T in white skin. And I looked at him and I thought, I don't know if I want to work here. And he had these really brassy, really gaudy gold jewelry on his rings on his finger, and a heavy gold necklace, and open shirt, like really Las Vegas-y kind of look, right? And I said hello to him, and he said hello, and he said, I said, I'm here to apply for the sales account executive position. He said, have you ever sold anything? I said, 6 years with a yearbook. And he said, what kind of car do you drive? And I said, I drive a Pontiac Grand Am. He said, how old are you? I said, 22. He said, you're hired. And I'm still standing. I'm not even sitting yet. And I said, that's it? That's the entire interview? He said, honey, in this island, if you've sold something for 6 years, you know the people already. That's 50%. That's the door already open.
Right.
And so he hired me. And in 1 month, I broke my quota. I was hired for $650. I broke that quota in a month, and in 3-4 months, I was making pretty good money. So sales was really, Chad has said,
it kind of came natural to you.
Because sales is about relationship. It
Right.
isn't about product. And I really
Oh, man,
enjoyed
that's a great insight. Yeah.
Yeah, I really
sure.
enjoyed broadcast sales because it's not tangible. I could never sell a car because a car's sold before they even walk in the door. They already know what they want, right?
Yeah.
They're just there to fit themselves into a car. With broadcast sales, it's theater of the mind. You have to create an image. You have to create an idea. You have to sell a product on the radio. You need to use words to bring that theater alive in a visual form with sound.
I'm sorry?
With sound.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, if these cameras weren't here, they'd only be listening to us. That's more powerful to me than video.
Yeah, we did. How many episodes have we been doing video? About 40 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's over 100 episodes of just purely audio. And it was difficult at first just to like, everything you had to say, it was a little bit more than you would usually say in a day-to-day conversation, just because you're trying to paint that picture for somebody.
But that's thinking.
Yeah. Agreed.
So I really enjoyed, and of course, I was not a non-known person because I had already sold 6 years of yearbook ads to many of the businesses. So when I told them I'm here for KOM, they said, "Oh, you just graduated." So, my husband frequently went to San Francisco because Bob is a tax specialist. So every year we went for continuing education, and every time we went to a city, I would go to the universities and I would go to the bookstores and I would buy marketing, public relations, and sales books, and I would come home and study those books, and I would practice whatever I read in the marketplace.
My goodness, you are a smart woman. Oh my gosh!
I must
just taking advantage of everything that you
absolutely
that
all your
comes
resources.
your way. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know. I can think of many times that I've walked by resources, right?
And you just didn't do anything
and just
with
didn't
it?
do anything with it, and and later like, oh man, I should have just pulled that ticket, or pull that string, see what happens. It's almost like you got at the carnival, you got the board of strings, right? You know what I'm talking about already. And you pull the string, and the string's all tangled up with other strings, and you see the toy that lifts up, and you're like, opportunity. No, not a good one.
Yeah, like I said, every challenge I've been handed, I take it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't like them. I mean, sometimes it's not something I enjoy, so I just stop.
Yeah, I think it was only until my mid-20s I started realizing how important it is to educate yourself on your own.
Constantly.
Yeah, and especially today. Today, if I want to know something like now, we just go to Google and just be like, nah.
Google is to be spoon-fed.
It's very true. Because it comes in large quantities, yeah.
Well, I mean, who is feeding you? If you're going to swallow everything you find on Google, you don't know who's feeding you.
Yeah, and that goes to another point, that filter, right?
Exactly.
You just really got to filter the information you're taking
I
in.
use Google too, but I always want to know who is it that's provide, who wrote this, and and I'll trash. But it's important to read everything that's there. And you cannot have a critical thinking mind if you're spoon-fed.
Well, yeah, you're taking everything that's said to you as
right. I mean, in this day of social media
and sensationalization
with WhatsApp and Instagram. I'm really new to Instagram. But I am surprised how much I get from friends or people who are on Instagram and Facebook who don't really think about what they're forwarding. And they forward it, and I'm like, really? Delete. I don't want this. But, there's so much out there, and people love a cliche. Mm-hmm. They like poems, and they like nice little sayings and God little things, and
motivational quotes.
Yes, and it's like, that's fine, but why don't you build on that?
Right.
For me, build on that. I love God, but why do I love God? And how is God going to impact my life? How am I going to meet up, and what am I going to do to become God's friend? That's more important to me than a nice little prayer that you're forwarding to everybody in the world who doesn't even fit that prayer.
Yeah.
So
Did you find yourself having a hard time adapting to doing Instagram or social media, Facebook and stuff like that?
I hate Facebook. I hate Facebook. There's so
I love
much
talking
drama.
to you.
There's so much drama on Facebook. It's like, actually, you know, selfies to me and Facebook just choke me, because it's like everything you do. Why do I really care about what you're eating? Is that the most important thing in your life?
And I've come to realize that for some people it is.
Well,
right, and because
I'm not sure that what they're eating is important. It's their sharing
Right.
is important.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Right? It's not so much the food. I mean, I've been getting photographs of like mango, because it's in season, and I enjoy that. You know, it's like, where'd you get that? You know,
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, every little restaurant you go to, really?
Yeah, it has become sort of a lifestyle.
Self-centered. That's too much self-centered.
I always bring up this quote. I think this is the third or fourth straight episode I brought it up. Bill Murray said social media was meant to empower us, but it's caused us to compare ourselves to each other.
Exactly.
So we see somebody who's gone on a good vacation. Well, you know what? I'm going to post up my vacation.
And that's fine.
Right.
I mean, I find that interesting, okay? For example, not just so much that you're going on vacation, but where you choose to go to vacation. Because if you go to somewhere that I might be interested in going, I like to see that. So, for example, recently I have friends who went to Korea. Their
Okay.
mother's Korean, and they went to Korea. And I've been to Korea 20 times, you know?
Wow, that's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
I went for the first time last year.
Oh, really? No, we travel a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I've been to Korea 20 times. I was unaware that there are amusement parks to the degree that there are. So obviously, I don't know the Korea the way they know Korea, right? So you can learn. I think you can learn from Instagram
I
and
understand.
WhatsApp.
Okay. I understand what you're
But
saying.
most people, when I say that, I mean, they give me a God-centric poem or something, and it's like the prayer is much more important.
It's almost like what chainmail had become during the email days, when email was starting to get big.
Yeah.
You send these chain messages.
I know the author. I know the designer of spam.
Really? And in what
I know
what
who he
capacity?
is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and his intention was very pure. It was not to create spam. They took a very ingenious method and spammed it. Because that method that and he will be anonymous for his protection, but when he designed the software to do that, or the method to do it, he did it for a particular reason, and it was not to create spam. But whenever you do something right or good, there's always someone there with a evil purpose that will take what you create and manipulate it. And so spam became, and then they associated him as the father of spam, which he's not. But I mean, and he was hounded, and
it was sort of an evolved version of his.
it was what's the word? It was just manipulated. I'm just going to leave it at that. And very sad, because it wasn't. It could have been used for a different purpose, but it became compromised.
Okay. Backtracking to where we were. You go to San Francisco, you go and buy books, update
Not
yourself.
just San Francisco, Philadelphia,
States,
New York,
okay, yeah.
whatever state I was at. Even Japan.
Find yourself in the mainland or in any foreign country, and you keep continuously learning and buy yourself books and bring it back and apply it to yourself. And so what sort of set you on the trail to going into having your own talk show then?
Oh, that's separate from
Completely different.
Absolutely. I was in sales at KOAM, and then there was a departure. There was a break between management and a lot of the top DJs. and the administrator, our general manager, John Anderson. So one day I came to work, and John Anderson said, "I have something to tell you." And John, this 6'4", I think, John from North Dakota or South Dakota, he looks down at me, and we'd become very close at that time. He was a really good boss. John always empowered me. He said, "Can you do this?" Or he would say, "No, I'm not going to ask you. Just go do it." And I was like a great soldier, man. I'd run. And so he said, "I'm leaving KOAM." And I went, "What? What do you mean you're leaving? Where are you going to go? You're going off island?" He said, "No, a group of people are setting up K57. What is that?" "It's a new radio station, KGUM." "Why?" He said, "We're parting ways with the Burgers." And the Burgers were the people who owned KOAM.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh, well," I mean, my heart was broken. I looked at him and almost teared. And I said, "I wish you well." And meanwhile, I'm thinking, why are you leaving me here, right? But I understand why people move on. And it's sad because good things don't always last.
For sure.
They don't always last, and you have to be prepared for that. So John leaves. Jerry Roberts leaves. J.Q. Fanihi. He was our morning DJ.
Okay.
I made so much money selling that personality because he was a good DJ. Toting, right?
Okay.
Joe Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the evening, it was Johnny Gerber. And so that was the AM lineup. Those men were wonderful. They loved their work. When they were on, they pushed that switch on, and they came alive in the booth. I'd be walking in and they'd be on that. I mean, they were totally into their show, and people just were hooked on them. Each of them had their own personalities. J.Q. Fanihi was more, Jerry had done radio in the Air Force, and so he was a morning DJ, and then very different from Toting, who is more Chamorro centric. And then we had the Chamorro Hour, which is Sus Chargalev, or Charfros and his brothers, right? So wonderful lineup. I mean, they were wonderful to market and to sell. Why's my throat bothering me? But anyway, so I thought, wow, what's going to happen to the lineup? You know, Jerry's leaving? What? Jerry's leaving? He's going with John? Wow, what are we going to do here? What am I going to sell?
Yeah.
And then the management came in from Honolulu, and it was hell. I felt like I was back at the cathedral. There was this constant badgering in my face, and Mr. Berger, bless his heart, smoked his cigars. And so he was in my face, and "You're stealing from me," and, you and John Anderson, and it's like, stealing from you? And I'd be talking to him with the cigar within inches of my face.
No.
And it's like, why are you yelling at me?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "You took a house account and we're paying you commission." And I said, "I took your house account and I increased it into television. You're paying me commission because I earned it." And I'm like this close to the guy. And meanwhile, I'm just like totally confused. It's like, what do you want me to do? You want me to sell or not, right?
Right.
So that 2 weeks was the greatest hell I ever lived at KOAM. And it's really sad because at the end of the 2 weeks, something had to break, right? I mean, you can't go on like that forever.
What year around was this? The 80s?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I started working at KOAM in 1978. Tara was just a year old. She was born 77 July, so about the summer, maybe. I forgot the month. So 78, 79, it would have been right at the end of 79, 80. And Mr. Berger had pulled all the numbers out and looked at all the sales activities and saw that I really was kicking butt. Seriously. I took house accounts that were constantly at the same level. Mm-hmm. And a house account is an account that the house takes and doesn't pay commission to. And I said to John in that year, in January of that year, that I had cut out all the house account ads in the newspaper and had figured out based on the rate cards exactly how much they were paying monthly. So I took that and I dropped it at his desk and I said, if I can get this client to increase, will you pay me commission? He said, by how much? I said, every single one of their businesses. You pay me my commission rate, I will work on this. And he said, sure. Now, I didn't know that he didn't get Berger's approval. You know, I'm not checking him. I'm only doing my work, right?
Right.
So when Mr. Berger came here,
A little bit more cutthroat back then, yeah.
I know. I think it's probably worse now. It's very different now in sales. So I very different. But anyway, after 2 weeks, he asked me if I would become sales manager of the KOM team. And at the same time, unbeknownst to him, John asked me to come across and build the sales department for K57. I jumped. I jumped because Mr. Berger didn't respect me. I jumped because Mr. Berger screamed at me, never asked me questions, never spoke to me, never treated me with respect. So why would I work for him?
Right.
Why am I going to make you any more money? You don't appreciate me, right? John, on the other hand, said, want to come across? Start the sales department. I've worked with him for 2 years already. I already knew what he's like. He believed in me. Here or there? What do you think?
Right, the obvious choice, right? Yeah.
I made the better choice. But I had a choice. There's the problem, see? The choice. You always have to have a choice.
Tying it back in.
Always.
You are a professional.
Always. If you don't have a choice, you better be the right one because you're stuck. So I went across and I said, I will come across, but I will build the sales department.
So you didn't even jump straight into radio. You build it from the ground up, and then...
I didn't build it from the ground up. It was never my intention to go into radio.
Yeah. No, but the sales department, right? You built that sales department.
The K57 sales department.
For K57,
Yes.
and then where did that transition happen of you coming onto radio now?
Oh, I was already gone. I'd left K57. I started an advertising agency. I wasn't even there.
We're not even that close in history yet? Okay.
No.
All right. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
I don't know why
I'm trying to jump into your radio, and we got a long time going. Here we go.
You weren't even born. When were you born?
I was born in the beautiful year of 1987.
Yep. You weren't even born.
All right. So
I didn't get into the radio till 10 years after that.
wow. Okay. Let me not rush you to get there.
I don't know why you want to know all this. It's not important. If you want to go radio, let's talk radio.
Oh no. It is important.
Why?
It's definitely important. Because I believe that the more people hear about you're a story person, the more people hear stories, the more people can appreciate the things that happen here. The things that you see today are not by accident.
Of course
it's
not.
people that are making moves, unbeknownst to anybody. And it's and why I keep rushing into you going into radio is because I thought the timeline was much closer than that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm 63 years old.
And most of the people I talk to ranges between the age of 20 and 35.
That's why I don't
40.
understand why I'm here.
No,
I mean, you're
because
young.
because you extremely piqued my interest.
What piqued your interest? What did I say there?
Just the kind of person that you showed you are. The drive and the passion that I saw. It was, I couldn't believe what I was watching.
How, that's...
To you, that is the thing. To you, it seems regular, but to someone like me who's only gone who's only been in this top stuff for the last 3 years and really getting to know not only people who I've had on the show, but getting to know myself. I never thought me talking to people would allow me to know myself better.
You
And-
learn incredible
Oh my
things from other people.
goodness. My learning curve has been like this ever since I started.
Straight up, huh?
Straight up.
And see, that's why I don't like talking about myself, because I really prefer learning about other people.
Well, welcome to my show.
Thank you very much. I mean, when you came up to me after that presentation and said, "Can you come on my show?" and you said, the second slide, I said, "What took you so long?" And I mean, I honestly spend most of my time talking about other people.
I'm sure.
Yeah, because I just find people very fascinating. I love. I mean, I've been interviewing people professionally since 1994.
Okay.
And paid for it. I mean, honestly, since 1994. My youngest son I was pregnant with my youngest son when I started this.
Where did you get started? Why start interviewing people in 94?
That's a better question. Okay, let's go there. I had a girlfriend named Susan Curtis, who was an FBI agent.
Okay.
And Susan wanted to start Susan was very athletic, and she said, "I'm going to start a basketball team for women over 40. I said, "Okay." She goes, "Do you want to play?" I said, "Yes." She goes, "Do you know how to play?" I said, "I was a point guard in high school, captain of the team." And she looked at me, she's like, "What?" I said, "That was in high school." And so she said, "Oh, you have to be on my team." So I joined the team, and in layup, we're doing layups, and this lady stands in front of me, beautiful woman, tall, just striking, half Howley, Chamorro. She turns around and she says, "Are you Rlene Steffy?" I said, "Yes." "Who are you?" She said, "Margaret Sizemore." And I said, "What can I do for you?" She said, "Would you be interested in writing a column for the Pacific Daily News?" I said, "You don't even know me." She said, "On the contrary, I know you. Everyone knows that you are a very strong individual, that you're willing to speak your mind, and you can back things up." I said, "You're asking for trouble." She said, "I know what I'm asking. Would you be interested?" I said, "Sure."
Where did she get her information about?
I have no idea. But we became very close. And then I said to her, after basketball practice, I said, "Margaret, what do you want me to write about?" She said, "Anything you want." "No host?" "No host." "Are you serious?" "Absolutely." "I'll do it." So I started writing for the Pacific Sunday News. And that's history. I'm still writing columns for the newspaper.
Really?
I went from the Pacific Daily News to the Guam Variety to the Marianas Variety, became managing editor of the Guam Variety, and then when it converted to
No
the
prior
Post.
writing experience or
Just high
anything
school.
like
I was
that.
a yearbook. I was editor. I wrote for 6 years.
But just because of your personality that she knew of, was the reason why.
the only professional experience that she would have gotten that from was sales,
Okay.
because I wasn't in media other than sales. And then, I had the I had the advertising agency, so I did a lot of writing. I did a lot of marketing and image building for clients.
Wow, your life now is totally different from where you really started
It's growth.
from.
It's total growth. I mean, we own Bobby Leongaro and I. She's my cousin, Barbara Borja Leongaro. We built Images Advertising Inc. and then sold it to Fifth Wheel, and then they sold it to someone else. But yeah, we built everything. I'm a scratch person. I do everything from scratch. Build it from the bottom up. I'm never afraid. Never worry about how it's supposed to be done.
Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. My father said it's personality. He said I never was afraid of anything. My mom goes, "Hey, there she goes again." He said to me in high school, "You can't do everything." And I said, "Why?" Because I was yearbook editor. I was on the kangaroo court for Stuco. I was vice president of the 10th grade, or president, I think, vice president something. And then I was a cheerleader, and I wanted to do something else. And he goes, "Rlene, you can't do everything." And I said, "Why not? If I have the energy and the time, if I can fit it in my schedule, why not?"
Yeah.
I was in high school in my senior year. I was half day at GW and half day at UOG. I took all the hard courses first and all the electives later. I'm just the opposite. I don't go for the easy road. I want to do the hardest things first because I know it's going to teach me something.
How do you think it's lasted for so long, though?
What's lasted?
That sort of drive.
Because I love learning. I love learning. If I'm not learning something, Vince, I'm gone.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Jerry Roberts said to Bob, because my husband was doing Jerry's tax, Jake Finihi. I don't even know if he remembers this. But when he found out that Bob and I were seeing each other or becoming a couple, he said, you know, I've worked with that woman, and there's a lot of men that show interest in her, and she's just not impressed. And he said, I've seen bankers, I've seen insurance people, and, you know, he said, they give her flowers, they just make fools out of themselves. But Rlene loves knowledge, and she's going to suck everything out of your brain, and then she'll move on. You know what Bob said? I'm not worried. She'll be here a long time. That was a wonderful answer. I didn't know that answer until years later.
Did you have to face any social constructs?
Like what?
At least being in the business world, right? And
Well, like what?
I don't know, discrimination.
Never.
Okay.
I don't know what a glass ceiling feels like because I never had one over my head.
Yeah.
If it was there, it would have cracked. I never dealt with gender issues because it's not an issue for me.
Right.
I don't apologize for being a woman, but I don't use sexuality.
But it was a very different time back then compared to now.
I
right?
still don't use it.
Right.
I compete with men. Bring it on. I mean, I'm still competing for things today.
For sure.
So nothing's changed. What's changed? I have confidence that what I'm going to do is going to turn out well because I'm going to give it my very best. And I can only stand from my last delivery. And in radio, by the way, Vince,
Okay.
you're only as good as
There
your
we go.
last show,
Agreed.
right?
Agree.
I believe that in everything. You're only as good as your last performance. So every performance has to be top. It's got to be the best. If you slack anywhere along the line, you're only cheating yourself.
Agreed. I totally agree. It's really important to want to keep progressing. I mean, ever since I started this show, all I've wanted to do. Just last year, we didn't have all this stuff here. It's
If you're not going to do it well, don't do it at all.
yeah.
But when you do it, do your best. And that's different for everybody. Not everyone can do it the same way. And that's not important. As long as you're doing your best.
Do you find yourself getting attached to the projects that you
No.
pursue?
It's a learning experience every time.
Why is that? I mean, why?
Because I'm not emotional. I'm not an emotional creature. I'm not there to love it. I'm there to do it. I'm there to learn something from it.
So how did that mindset sort of translate into your writing as a
writing.
as a columnist?
I love writing. I like giving my opinion. I like the fact that people read my opinion. I like the fact that people disagree with me or agree with me. I love the discussion that comes from it. I love like today. I mean, I'll read you what I got today.
Okay.
People respond to what I say because it stings them somehow. Because it's not stirring the pot. It's personal. And so I got I won't say who it is, but I got this message this morning that says, I wrote a column about archaeology because my Itinalta Mariana season 4 on television now is about history of archaeology. And so I got this message and they quoted, they took a screenshot of the paragraph that says, this is how the paragraph reads. Many of our resident archaeologists in the Mariana Islands have lived this way for their professional career. You may recognize some of the following names: Rosalind Hunter Anderson, Darlene Moore, Mike Carson, Hiro Kurashina, Boyd Dixon, Vic April, Mike Fleming, Dave DeFont, Sandy Lee, Ronnie Rogers, Jennings Bunn, Mark John Mark Joseph, to mention a few. And so this individual said to me underneath this screenshot that he said, these were the only archaeologists you could think of? And here's my response. Of course not. I said, it says to mention a few. There is more coming. I have not forgotten. And so, it's like...
Or you could have put the max was 600 words and
really, but
reach the cap.
Yeah, but see, to me, that is a cheesy answer. Because 600 words is
No, it was a joke.
Technical,
it was a
yeah.
joke.
But anyone who follows my column knows that I'm feeding you information.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you stuff, and I can't give you everything in one column. But if I'm writing about something, you can be sure that something is going to follow, because there's something to share, right? And so he responded and said, "Well, I look forward to the other," which he should,
Well,
because
keeps him reading, right?
yeah, and I've had people. When I hear something on the radio, just to not to change the subject or go there yet, but when I was on the radio, I'm a Jehovah's Witness, and when I would talk about issues like, I think it was teenage pregnancy or something that I spoke about, and I said we lead in teenage pregnancy in the nation at the time, and I think we still do. I haven't looked at the stats lately, but I was making a comment about, this island prides itself on being very religious, right? We all go to church. Why are we not establishing a basis for why fornication is wrong, or why do we abuse our children and make them pregnant? Why are girls being pregnant at 14 years old? That ruins their lives. What kind of a life can you have at 14 when you haven't even finished school and you already have a child? Right?
So in the Middle Ages. Anyway. Yeah.
I was talking about that, and somebody called John Anderson and said, I don't want to be preached to on the radio. I know she's a Jehovah's Witness, but I don't want anybody preaching me to the radio. And so after I got off the air, John said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Sure." I always go in when he says that. And I said, "What's up?" And he said, he told me about the situation. And I said, "Okay." I said, "That's fair. If she doesn't want me to preach to you, then I don't want you to ever sing happy birthday on the radio. I don't want you to ever talk about the Catholic Church and December 8 and Ash Wednesday or any religious holidays, because it's the same thing. So if you could tolerate one, you should be able to tolerate everything else."
Right.
And besides, I'm not preaching on the radio. I shared an experience. And if you follow the principle, then you'll understand that the practice of fornication results in teenage pregnancy.
Right. They just don't wake up and they're pregnant.
Exactly.
Only Mary.
Exactly. Yeah, And so he looked at me. I remember he looked at me and he said, "Holy shit." Now, I don't know any shit that's holy, but it dawned on him why and what they were doing.
Uh-huh.
And so he said to me, "Well, just use judgment." And I said to him, "You too." I said, percentage for percentage. 10% for you, 10% for me. You spend 3 hours talking about that kind of stuff, I get 3 hours. Equal opportunity. And he looked at me and he goes, "Thank you."
Carry on.
Yes, right. Yeah, carry on. And so, but honestly, when you think about it, right, it's a custom. And there are other people on this island who are not Catholic. Not just Jehovah's Witnesses. And they have to tolerate that because you, as a Catholic, consider tolerating them.
Yeah, and we automatically assume everybody is a Catholic here on Guam.
That's so Catholic.
So Catholic. So Catholic of you to think
It's so
everybody's
Catholic.
Catholic.
And I actually, see, therein lies another point of choice, Vince. People choose what they believe in, right? Mm-hmm. So when I go door to door and I bring up the scriptures as a guide to help you to learn who God is, that's a choice I'm offering you.
Right.
I'm not there to, bless you with holy water or whatever. I'm not forcing you. Right?
This is what you need to believe in. This is what it is.
All I'm doing is pointing out something.
Yeah.
If you don't want it, that's fine. That's all I'm doing. Now, people don't realize the different things that they do every single day because we've been doing it our whole life. And they don't see the correlation between what they're doing and religion, right?
Yeah.
I mean, somebody says, well, the Immaculate Conception is the, what is it? The saint what is it? The of Guam. And what is it? A patron saint, isn't it? Patron saint?
I believe so. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not the expert here, but something about patron saint. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not the expert.
You're a Catholic.
I'm the Catholic.
Shame on you. You should know this. So anyway, they said, well, I said, what do you mean protect? And they said, well, she protects us from storms and all. And I said, where was she in Karen?
Yeah. And Paca.
And Paca. And all the other ones that blew everything down.
Yeah. There needs to be a time when people
Critical
have a hard
thinking.
time. We'll have a hard time being realistic and being superstitious, and not only being superstitious, because you can't say being religious is superstitious, but just kind of.
I think it's their faith, right? I mean, they and that's fine. I'm not ditching that, but it's like, okay, if that's true, then you have to question what happened in this circumstance.
Right. Yeah.
You
can't pick and choose
Can't.
what you want to be realistic with. Yeah.
And for me, everything's real. I mean, I really am not. I'm a huggy kissy. I love people, but I'm not like hovering. I don't like, customarily we have clicks, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a clicker. I choke. I can't see the same people all the time. I can't have coffee with you every single week. I can't have one monthly dinner with you every month. I just, it's like, can you do that? I can't do that. Can you?
I think it really depends for me. If I'm really trying to be driven on something that, for this example,
this is not what I'm talking about.
Just putting time into something that I really love. I cannot.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about how on Guam, you tend to create this over nurturing thing where everybody's so relation connected. It's like you're my auntie and there's my Sina and there's my cousin, and everything you do is in this little group. I suffocate.
Yeah, I believe it doesn't allow you to grow.
You can't grow.
It almost.
And you allow people to dictate what you're going to think and how you're going to move, and it's like, no. I need my own perch.
Right. Yeah, I feel the same way too. I understand now. I understand what you're saying. If it's almost like if you spend.
They all go to the same parties, and they all go to the same things, and it's like
we roll together. We actually just bought a 15-passenger van, and we are all going to.
I actually like that part. I like getting in the car and riding around, but not every single week, and not with all the same people.
Maybe when I first moved, I moved back to Guam when I was about 22 or 23 years old.
From where?
Tucson. I lived in Tucson, Arizona for 5 years.
What were you doing there?
School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I graduated from the University of Arizona and moved back right after, got a job and been working since. And in my early 20s, saw my friends every day, every single day.
See, that to me is a need.
In what way?
You have a need to be with them.
Right. Okay.
That's immaturity.
I believe so. Yeah.
You're emotionally connected to them. You need to, and that's fine. But you don't do that for life.
Yeah. As I started to grow older, everybody has their own family, doing this, doing that, and I looked at myself. I was like, well, let's go look for
it's like
people.
Vince. Everyone else is growing up. What are you going to do about it?
But it didn't make me afraid.
What's his name?
Matt. Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't make me afraid, the fact that everyone was growing up so quickly, or not quickly, but just growing up, and me, I was still trying to find my way, right? And then I found this, and I've been doing this for 3 years, right?
Is this your way?
This is my way. I believe, and it's weird. I believe that I was meant to do this. there's no reason why I kept doing it for the last 3 years, except that it
I did
excited
it for 10.
me. Yeah, and that's why I got super excited when when I came in your presence.
Oh, maybe that's why you wanted to interview me, because you heard that I did it for so long.
Yeah, I heard talk radio, talk show, and I was like,
Okay.
oh man,
All right.
here we go.
Now I know why. Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out what did I say there. Because, Eric West has known me for a while. And he said, I know that you're I'm not a one disciplined person. I love learning. I really, and if I went to school, I probably would be one of those people that have multiple PhDs. My PhD's in living. I will go at something and learn as much as I can about it to satisfy myself, and then I move on. But in that journey, I will share everything that I'm learning.
Right.
And so somebody can pick up from that and take off. But once I feel like I've learned enough,
Yeah,
I'm done.
I told myself, I said, once this thing doesn't make me happy anymore, it
That's
doesn't
right.
give me that sort of spark,
Mhm.
I'm not
If
going to
you're-
do it anymore.
If you don't wake up and look forward to this, move on.
Yeah. And so, that's the reason why I've been
Okay.
excited for the last 2 weeks.
2 weeks. My goodness.
Yeah, honestly, when I run into talk people, talk show hosts, I ran into Ray Gibson at a restaurant, and Uncle Ray, by the way, and I went up to him and I said, I need to introduce myself to you because you guys are the reason why I do this. If it wasn't for you guys to sort of lead the way in sort of what talk radio is, I wouldn't be doing a podcast.
Yeah, talk radio is not the same as it was when we were on the air.
Yeah, I bet.
Very
I
different.
bet.
I don't know. I don't know what they talk about now. But it's funny because Ray called me last week and he goes, "Come on the show. Come over. Let's have fun. Give me the opportunity to brag." What? He cut his talk show teeth on my show,
Oh, okay.
on Rlene Live.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's where it all began.
Well, because he was an FM DJ.
Okay.
I mean, Ray, like Johnny Gerber, Ray was on radio, I believe, since he graduated from high school.
Okay.
And so he was always doing radio thing and what's his name, Albert Wan. I went to school with Albert Wan. And so they're the guys across the street. We're the AM guys, they're the FM guys, and then Ray, I think, realized that his listeners were growing up and they were coming across. And he was still on FM. And he decided, I need to come across. And so I said, come in my show. I mean, just feel free to come in anytime. And so he likes to free willy. And I'm not a free willy kind of person. I'm totally prepared.
Kind of like what we're doing right now.
This is prepared. You asked me to come and talk about my career. Okay, that's different. That's not free willy.
Okay.
Free willies, I'm going to sit here and shoot the breeze about, guitars. I don't know squat about guitars. I played it in high school, performed it, short-lived, that's it.
Yeah.
But that's Ray. Ray, and John Anderson always encouraged me to do monologues. He said, you could take a topic and just present it in a way that very different, because my view on things are very different, right? So if I took, let's say, the election, which I don't like talking about elections, but I would talk about that, and maybe the candidates. I would do a review of the candidates, or I'd call the candidates in or whatever. And it was always different. I don't care who did it before me. It was always going to be different when I did it. And so people would listen, as a matter of fact. I don't want to break the what's coming up, but I was asked recently to interview. I've interviewed candidates for other elections, and I was asked to do that by, what is the name of that magazine? Gus Flores. Yeah, Gus Flores had GU magazine, and he said, "Will you go out and interview all the candidates?" And I said, "Sure." And I remember walking into Felix Camacho's office. He was our governor. And I had my my equipment and I set it up, and he said, "So Rlene, is this going to be a slanted interview?" And I looked at him and I said, "Slanted? Or skewed or something?" I forget what he said. And I said, "Governor, you're the one being interviewed. it's you. It's your perspective. I'm not writing this. And I thought, why it was so much a challenge already that he thought that my coming to him, preconceived maybe, that I was already choosing. I don't even vote.
There is a possibility though, right? You have to admit.
For what?
To have someone come in and just ask questions that may be sort of like knowingly against what I don't even know what I'm trying to go with. I honestly don't even know.
That's the point.
Yeah. Okay.
First of all, if you are asked a question, no matter who asked that question, you don't have to answer the question.
So is it better? So it's better to why am I even saying deny? It's better just to say no, I don't want to answer it, than to give an answer that may be sort of false.
Would you lie? You're running for a position to lead the people of the Guam.
Yeah, not at all.
Why would you lie, right? I mean, everything on this island is so transparent, especially if you're a politician. If you're running for office, people know you.
Right.
They may not know everything about you, but they know you. They watch you. They see you. They know more about you than you probably think they do. And they should, because you hold yourself out there to be their representative to something, whether it's the legislature, the governor's office, or Congress. So you need to be transparent to people. People see you in the restaurants. They see there's nothing that you can hide on this island.
Right.
If you think you fool around and nobody knows, you're the fool. Everybody knows.
I love how straight up you are. So, yeah, you're not wrong there.
Who do you think you're kidding? Everyone knows who you are. Everyone knows who you're married to, and everyone knows that person that you're with is not your spouse. So, do the math. If you don't want to mislead people, don't go in public.
Or go to Coco's Island.
Not even there. The birds talk. The birds will poop on you.
You might as well go to Poggin.
So anyway, let me finish this. Let me tell you the story about Felix.
Okay.
It was a wonderful interview. I was the reporter that discovered or released the fact that he's a very gifted man. He plays the guitar. He has a wonderful voice. I said, would you play something? And a different Felix came out. All of a sudden his guard was gone, you know? I mean, I never knew. I've known Felix as a kid. I never saw him like that. I did not know he could play the guitar. I didn't know he could sing. But that afternoon was very pleasant. And so it ended very differently from how it started. So preconceived notions about people are not something you should carry with you. You need to give people the opportunity to present themselves to you.
For sure.
Every time.
For sure. Every time people come on this show, they're like, what do you want to know? I was like, let's just talk to each other.
Exactly.
That's all it'll take. And the people who had the most doubt in coming on to the show were actually some of the longest and some of the best interviews that I've done. And
because they didn't have an agenda.
Right.
It's very easy to see an agenda in any kind of work. It's predictable. But when something occurs where it's enjoyable to listen to and it's developing as the interest between the two people, rise, it's very rewarding. And so that afternoon, I discovered that Felix Camacho could sing. Felix Camacho could play the guitar. And he's actually very personable. But, I think in some sense, very shy too. I didn't know that about Felix. So when I did the interview or conducted the interview,
and especially for politicians, right? It's people
actually
sort of have this
politicians are not public people.
No, but just the way people look at them from the outside, it's already an assumed sort of opinion of how a general opinion of how people look at a politician, right?
Well,
they don't look at the personal views or the personal things that they're into, their interests, their likes.
Because they don't know it.
Right.
They
right.
only see, they base their opinions on what they see.
Right.
So that's why
That's what I was trying to get to, yeah.
being in public life is, like living in a glass. You really have to be careful.
Yeah.
If you're going to take your shirt off, make sure that you're not, in public view.
Take off the nipple ring.
And I remember when I interviewed Eddie at his house, and I also enjoyed that interview very much. And I believe what I walked away with there is Eddie's personal attachment and pride to his family heritage. He's younger, I think, than Felix. I don't remember, but he had just had a tattoo put on his left shoulder, facing, and I said, "Can I see it?" And he said, "It's not done yet," and he wasn't. I don't know if he wasn't comfortable about showing it or whatever, and so I got that out of the interview, and he'd been interviewed before, but each interview is different based on the two people that are in a discussion. And so I thought that was great. I interviewed Robert Underwood, I interviewed Carl Gutierrez, Felix Camacho, and Eddie Calvo. I loved it.
Man, I feel like I'm talking to my idol right now.
Oh, come on. Don't make me an idol. I'm leaving.
Oh, my goodness.
Matt, throw water in his face. Wake him up.
Pinch me, Matt.
No, don't pinch him. Wet him down.
It's awesome, and this is the main reason why I brought you on this, because this is. I'm so curious as to the information that you what drives you to keep wanting to learn people's stories over and over and over.
Because it's not over and over.
That's the thing.
It's all different. For example, there are 15 people in the Senate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those 15 people are stories within themselves.
Right.
So in the last election, when 7 of them were ousted, it was a natural mathematical sense to me, go get the exit interviews. So I called them all up. Can I interview you about, your loss? Every one of them said yes.
How is having these interviews change your perspective, at least on life?
None. Doesn't change my perspective on life. I know life is not what I'm interviewing. I'm interviewing them.
I mean, I guess what you see about yourself, because I feel like me talking to people has completely changed me.
How?
Just my understanding of
that changed.
Of how people go about it. Like we're all here. We're all here. We all live here. But it's the only thing that's different are the details. The fine details between us.
The choices that a person makes dictates their life. It's all that. It's their choices. They either make a good choice or a bad choice, and then they live that consequence. There's a good consequence and there's a bad consequence. And then what you make of that is how you fare. You need to get off that boat if you know it's sinking. Don't stay on it and keep bailing out. Get off. And if it's a good one, ride it for a while.
Right.
Until you can, as long as you can benefit and the other person's benefiting, ride it. Improve it. Improve that ride.
And how long were you in radio?
10 years. As a talk show host.
As a talk show host.
Would you like to know how that occurred?
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it. I'm game.
Are you ready, Matt?
I am game.
My husband, I remember the exact spot when I said to Bob, I'm calling John Anderson. I want my own show. Now, I had already left K57 at that time, and K57 had a host of talk radio. I was listening to the afternoon show, and I was sick of what I was listening. I was just sick of these people had no clue what the Tomorrow People were about, and they were just blabbing on the radio. It drove me crazy. So I picked up my phone, and Bob said, what are you doing? Because I had just said to him, I'm going to call John Anderson. He goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to call John Anderson. He goes, why are you going to do that? I said, I'm going to tell him I want my own show. And he goes, Rlene. And I looked at him and I said, what? You don't think I can do this? He said, no, I know you can do this, but do you know what kind of commitment that's going to be? I said, I'm ready to jump. So I called John Anderson and I said, I need to talk to you. He said, about what? I said, I want my own show. Now, you got to understand that in media, I came in from the sales side, not radio, right? I'm not a frontline guy. I'm a backline guy.
Yeah.
And here I am jumping into the front. I'm saying, I want my own show.
You're the one funding the shows.
Yeah, right. I'm the one paying for the ads. I'm the one turning the lights on, right?
Yeah.
So he goes, what? Did I hear you right? I said, yeah, you heard me right. I want my own show. He said, can you come in tomorrow? I said, what time? He said, 11 o'clock. I came in at 11 o'clock. I did a 1-hour show. And at the end of the show, my family came to greet me. We were walking down the second floor of the Calvo Insurance Building where the K57 studio was at. And we were on just about to take the second flank down. And John comes out and he goes, hey, can you come tomorrow? I said, sure. He said, the phones are ringing off the hook.
Wow. Yeah.
The news department came out and said, get her back.
What did you talk about that first show?
I have no idea. Actually, I know exactly what I talked about. I had Mark Forbes and Mark Charfus on my show. I'm a straight up person. I don't pull any punches.
I can tell. Yeah,
I am
sure.
You see what you get. If you don't like it, deal with it.
And from there, that's just
A
sort of
1-hour
where-
show. He said 1 hour a week. I said, I'll take it. Then it went to 2 hours a week. Then it went to 5 hours a week. And then it went to 10 hours a week. And then he asked me if I would do the afternoon show because Mike Powell was leaving. I said, absolutely not. That's not what I want. You're going to work me. And it's not going to be fun anymore. It's not going to... I'm not there to entertain the drive market. I don't want to talk about raffles and what's in the newspaper and Hollywood. And if I'm not stimulating thinkers, I'm wasting my time because I have to be stimulated. I need to know that what I'm talking about is something that's pulling your heartstrings but making you think and helping you.
Yeah.
It's not just, about that elephant up there.
Yeah.
What about that elephant? Tell me about that elephant.
Yeah.
Not just that it's a symbol for the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what happened. And then I think it was before the end. Oh, and at the same time, by the way, I was writing opinion columns for the Pacific Sunday News. And so I started the radio November 1998, 97. November 1997. And the managing editor of the PDN said, she's a commodity. She has to make a choice. Radio or newspaper? And
Wow.
And I said to Lee, I can cross promote the show.
Yeah.
I can write about it in my column and I can talk about my column over here. I mean, this is easy for me to see. What's the problem?
Right. Yeah.
He said, I can't buck the managing editor. He said, make a business decision. That's what Lee said. Make a business decision. And he was for it. He saw it, but he can't buck the managing editor. And I said, adios, Lee. And that's what ended my Sunday column in the Pacific Sunday News.
What made you want to be so cutthroat on the radio?
Cutthroat? I wasn't cutthroat.
Well, at least just sort of speak
I was
your
straight
mind,
up.
right?
Well, that's what people want to hear. I was so popular. I broke records. And it was only because I was straight. Why would I tell you that Magellan landed in Jigo?
It was a Puto Matt.
If he didn't, right?
Yeah, right.
People, I mean, you need to know what you're talking. You need to be prepared about what you're going to say. Otherwise, you're just blowing air into a microphone.
Yeah.
So I prepared. I read a lot, Vince. I could talk about muscle cars if I had to. I am constantly reading. I can talk about children's books. I can talk about art. I can talk about artists. I can talk about any topic because I read. I'm always reading. But that doesn't make me the expert. It just means I can converse.
Right.
And so when I share what I learn, when I share that I've learned about this and I think this is something that the listeners would like, then they hang in there.
Right.
So, and the topics for me range based on either current events, but I never looked at the newspaper to talk about. I never came to K57 with a newspaper in tow. I never did. I don't need the newspaper to generate talk. There's enough going on. And if you don't have your pulse in this community, you have no business talking. I could speak tomorrow. I could speak English. I can interview someone who doesn't speak, that I don't speak their language, as long as they can speak English or have somebody to translate.
Right.
I did that in Micronesia. I flew out to Pohnpei, to Kosorai, to Marshalls, to Palau, didn't go to Chuuk. But I interviewed people who I don't even know the language, but I wanted them to answer it in their language because I'm trying to preserve their language, right? One day that language is going to change. English is an easy language. It's a language that helps you to communicate with the world. So everyone's going to learn it. I don't see that as a negative. But you don't need to lose your language. You don't need to give up your language to do that. Bilingualism makes you a better person, a smarter person, a better able to grasp concepts because you're working your brain.
Yeah.
And when you learn 2 languages, 3 is easier.
That's what I've heard. What is how has language changed since you were a little girl all the way to now?
Well, I'm speaking Chamorro today. I didn't speak it as a little girl. My parents didn't speak to me in Chamorro because it was their secret language and they used it with their mothers. But when it came to us, they wanted us to be fluent in the English language because they wanted us to be able to compete when we became adults. Okay, we did. When we became adults, we're like, wait a minute, how come we don't know how to speak Chamorro? My brothers and I learned Chamorro from other people, and I taught myself because I'd already heard it. So I would speak in the car, I'd speak to myself in the shower, I'd speak to myself when I'm cleaning around the house. And before they had cellular phones, I would talk out loud in the car. And people would look at me like, it always made me feel like they must think I'm crazy. Because I'm talking and there's nobody there, right? And I'm animated when I'm talking. Because when I'm trying to speak Chamorro is a very
gestured.
Yeah, you're moving, right? And it's, so I'm doing that in the car and they're looking, I remember one time looking, the lady goes, "You okay?" I started laughing and rolled down my window. I was like, I'm practicing my Chamorro.
How old were you when you decided that?
I was an adult at K57.
Okay.
My very first show at K57 was with Elena Benaventi, who is a master weaver. And Elena Jr., her daughter, came and I said, can I interview her on the show? And she said, she doesn't speak English. I said, that's okay, I'll practice my Chamorro. So I got on the radio, and it was the first time that I interviewed in the Chamorro language at any length, any real length. I had a 2-hour show, so that was a pretty serious interview. And I got resistance from Rex Sorensen. He told the board operator, tell her to speak English. And the board operator types me, and I look at my monitor, and it said, Rex said speak English. And I type back, tell him to tell me that on the radio. And he goes, I'm not going to tell him. And I said, then don't tell me what he says. And he goes, but he's the boss. I said, this is my show. I mean, this is back and forth as I'm interviewing. I'm interviewing. It's like, hello. But yeah, the resistance that I received, that kind of, but to me, that's not something you can't work over.
Right, or overcome, yeah, right.
Or overcome. There isn't anything that has to become an issue.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. Okay, deal with it. So after the show, I always wash, like you gave me a cup of coffee and you give me water. So I did that to all my guests. And after the show, I would take it into the break room and I would wash the dishes. Mm-hmm. And so Rex knew this. Everyone else would pile their stuff in the sink. I never did that. I always washed. So he knew I would be back there washing the dishes. And he goes, this is an English radio station. I said, yeah, I know that. Do you know that there are Chamorro-speaking people here that are listening? He said, yeah, but this is an English radio. I said, I got that.
Wow, that's very interesting.
So I did it again. And then John Anderson said, excuse me. John Anderson said, he called the board operator and he goes, ask her to translate. Excuse me.
Yeah. Go ahead. Take your time. Take your time. Dropping some knowledge. My goodness.
Oh,
Some history here.
it's experience, Vince.
Yeah. It's stuff I've never heard in my life
Why
before.
would you?
It's so awesome.
Why would you hear it? You didn't even know me 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And I'm glad I do now. Yeah,
Well,
that's
thank
for
you very
sure.
much.
Yeah.
So anyway, John called and he said, I had Rosa Palomo on my show. Rosa Palomo is a advocate for Chamorro language. And I don't remember that. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, we've been going a long time. How long have we been going here, Matt?
An hour 30.
Whew, there we go.
Well, I haven't talked this long for a long time.
And we haven't even touched into some other stuff I want to touch into.
Hold on.
And we could save it for another show if needed.
I'm not going to do it twice. I'm too busy. Okay.
We'll figure out a way, Arlene.
So he called. I mean, the next opportunity I had, and I can't tell you how quickly that was until I look at the tapes. Because I was the only one, by the way, that recorded all my shows. So I have them all on tape. And we're going to be putting them up. We're going to digitize them. So you will be able to listen to this.
Awesome.
So that's why I'm interested in this. Okay, so I asked Rosa, would you please come on the radio? And she said, of course. And I had just met this woman. I really didn't know Rosa before, but, I met her at the university during one presentation. I always went to presentations at the university. I always wanted to get a degree, but my personal circumstances didn't lend itself to that. And then by the time I became financially independent, it was ridiculous to go back to college because I was making so much money. And that's why you go to college, so you can get a job to make money. So it's like, no. So I bit the bullet and kept walking forward. So she came on the radio, and of course, I said, we're going to speak tomorrow. She said, oh, okay. So we did. John called the board operator and tell her to translate. And then poor guy, I feel so bad for them. I sent back, tell him to call my show. This is a talk show. This is not email. And he goes, I'm not telling John. I said, then don't tell me. It's like, why are people afraid? I don't get that. Why?
Is this something that you've seen for a very long time, though, that people are afraid?
To me, oppression. That's oppression. Isn't that oppression?
In some aspect, yes.
It is oppression in every aspect. You're telling someone not to speak their language. How can that not be oppression?
Within the business, you're absolutely correct. Yes.
So he comes to the station and he makes himself present. We had a big glass window. Okay. What is that march supposed to do to me? He looks at me and gives me stink eye. Like, I stink eye back. Okay, fine. We're even. I'm conducting a show, right? It's like, what is this? So we continue this, and then afterwards, he didn't even call me. I went straight to the office. And he said, this is an English radio station. I said, I got that.
Right.
But this is Guam.
Yeah.
And there is another language here that's an official language. It's called Chamorro. It's not just English. It's an official language. I don't need your permission to speak it. And you don't need to tell me that I got to translate it. If I'm speaking English to people that don't understand it, I don't stand there and translate it.
Right.
So why am I supposed to translate Chamorro?
Was there anybody previous to you speaking Chamorro on the radio, ever spoken Chamorro on the radio?
No, except Sus Chamorro.
Okay.
But that was in the evening. This is prime.
Time, right. Right.
So anyway, I said, no, not going to do that. And so he goes, can you just like, as you reach a point in your discussion, can you pause and just, translate?
Right.
I said, sure, I can do that. And I did. Because he gave me the freedom to choose when to pause.
Would you still call that oppression?
No.
Okay.
Because he didn't tell me I couldn't speak tomorrow. There's a difference.
Because you have a choice.
Exactly.
God, we keep tying it back. I love it. Yes.
I mean, come on. Give people the right to choose. They will make good decisions. You have to trust them that they're going to do it. Otherwise, they'll be unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't exactly protesting. And then, I said, John, if you don't like what I'm doing, you can always fire me. But remember why I started. No host. You do not interfere. You don't tell me what to talk about. And you don't come into my show. When Rex Sorensen did that Great America, whatever, I forget what it was, some kind of fiasco about owning a bunch of radio stations in the States. Nobody told me that I couldn't talk about that. It was the topic of the day, right? So I come in and I start talking about it. And then the break, I went to use the bathroom and he goes, hey, we're not supposed to talk about that. And I said, why not? He said, because I'm the only one that's supposed to talk. I said, no. You call me up and tell me that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk about it. Why can't we talk about it? We need to criticize ourselves. When we make a mistake, the public expects that, John. And by the way, I didn't get that memo. I don't know why. I really didn't get it.
God, podcasting would have been perfect for you back in the day.
No, that radio
Even
was perfect.
today.
Radio was perfect for me. I loved it. I love talk radio.
Mm-hmm.
I quit talk radio because my husband started traveling for the Guam Olympic Committee. And when he went somewhere, he doesn't like to travel. So when he takes me, I'm just like, oh, look at that. Look at that. Taking pictures, and I suck all of it up. I'm enthralled at the differences in the food and the experience, and he just enjoys that, right? So he said, he would tell me a couple times at lunch for several months, you really would like to go and see this? And I said, Bob, I can't. I'm a radio talk show. I have to show up. Mm-hmm. I can't do that, And he goes, well, just think about it, And then finally I talk about it. Okay. And then I told John, I said, I'm going to quit. And he said, why? I said, because I'm going to travel with Bob. And he goes, Rlene, how long are those trips? And I said, 1 week, 2 weeks at a time. He said, get somebody to sit in for you. I looked at him and said, are you serious? He said, you don't have to quit for that. Okay. So I started looking for co-host, Rlene Live co-host. And then it got to the point where I was traveling so much, doing my research, and then with Bob, that it was actually, I was hardly there. And I said, this is crazy. Yeah. So then Mariana's Variety offered me a managing position. I took it. Come on. I'm a radio talk show host, right? And they want me to be a managing editor. Mm-hmm. That's a dream, to be a managing editor in the newspaper, even though I never thought of doing that. Mm-hmm. I took it. I had a great experience. But the news department is sacred ground. You cannot tell the news department what news to cover or what to put on the newspaper. That's sacred. Management needs to stay out of it if it's going to be a good newspaper. If management dictates the news, it's dictated news. That news department needs to be able to go out and find news and come back and report it and sell papers. And the columnists need to be their commodity, like that managing editor said at Pacific Sunday News. They are the commodities. You're only as good as your columnists.
Yeah, I see newspapers having a tough road in the future just because
I agree.
Now we're getting so much information like instantly. As soon as something happens, my phone's like bling, and it's not even a news app. It's WhatsApp. Right.
Well, and that's important. That's community news. Mm-hmm. But you still need to filter that. There's still an obligation. And people love to be the first one to tell you something happened, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that they're responsible.
Right. What got you into investigative reporting?
John Anderson.
Because I feel like that's something that we're missing today.
I did not know that I was going to be good at that one. I wanted to be an attorney. That's what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be a lawyer, but my personal circumstances didn't allow. So when one day so funny, I come out of the bathroom during a break, and John Anderson's standing in the hallway leaning on the wall. And I make a right turn, and there he is. And I said, "Are you okay?" He said, I need to talk to you. I said, "Oh, we're not in the office. What's up?" He said, "I want you to be an investigative reporter." And I looked at him and I said, "A what?" "Investigative reporter." I said, "You have 4 women in the newsroom and 1 guy. Did you consider any of them?" He said, they can't do it. They don't want people mad at them. They don't want they want their friends. And I looked at him and said, "You don't think I have friends? You don't think I have family?" He said, "Rlene, everyone knows you. They know you're straight. They know you'd turn your husband in if you found out he committed a crime." I said, "And they won't?" Wow.
Yeah, that's a very tricky profession to get
No,
into.
it's not.
Especially, I mean, it's here on Guam, I would think.
No, it's not. It's no different than anything else. It just means you need to be more in depth. That's all it is. What's so different from what you're doing now?
I guess so. I mean, because I guess when I think of investigative reporting, you're going deeper than skin deep.
There you go. So I'm spending more time on a story than you. End of story.
Okay, understood.
I'm just digging a little bit deeper.
Right.
You know, and
But that affects things down the line. I mean, you said it yourself. People weren't willing to lose friends or relationships.
I'm not, but I'm not an enabler by any stretch of the imagination either.
So how did you create sort of a balance then of being an investigative reporter and not sort of affect relationships, not only maybe not familial at all, but relationships that you've made over the years, whether it be through business or social, right? Because everything sort of covers everything here on Guam.
Well,
right?
I have to make a choice.
Yeah. Okay.
Is your friendship more important to me? Am I going to enable you breaking the law? Or am I going to hold you accountable for breaking the law? What choice do you think I'd make if I found out that you broke the law? There's no choice, right? You know I'd turn you in. And you should do the same for me, Vince. It shouldn't even be a choice. It should be the standard. Why isn't it the standard?
Have you ever run into that sort of situation when you were investigated?
Not once. Not once.
Where you had to face all right, man, you committed a crime.
They knew it when they saw me. They knew exactly what I was doing there. It was real pensive.
Right.
When by the time
I can really imagine, yeah.
Yeah, by the time I come to you, you know I've done my homework.
Yeah.
And when they see me, when they hear that I'm there and want to see them, they already know. They have a choice. Face me or go the back door. I never had anybody run. Even Jack Abramoff. He actually accepted my phone call at home. I thought that was very genuine of him. He could have said, "I'm not going to answer that phone. Tell her I'm not here. Lie to her, whatever." He didn't. He took my call. I called the White House. I've called the Department of Interior, the U.S. Attorney General's office in D.C. Why would they run? The FBI, whatever. I mean, those were really good days. I saw good in people even when they made bad choices. Because people, to me, I don't know what it is that makes them do that. I have the same choices every day, but some people just, maybe it's the familial thing, maybe it's the friendship thing. I'm not sure. But if you, with the court, the challenge there was I needed to read their sunshine law. And I read the Sunshine Law, and I found all the loopholes, and I went in and got the information I needed, and then they changed the law, closed all the holes. I thought that was so shabby.
Could be the reason why there's no investigative journalism. I mean, reporting here now.
No, there's nobody paying the money to do it. I think you can cultivate good investigative reporters.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the news today. Correct me if I'm wrong. Just it's very reactionary. It's become.
That's all you want.
That's all we got, though.
That's all you want. Do you hear anybody saying, "Hey, how come we don't have in-depth stories?" That's all you want. You're all gleaning.
Headline readers.
Not just headline. You're gleaning. You're just, who, what, where, when, why, and how. I'm still kind of like, I read the article about the 2 women that were killed, hit and run.
Right.
One of them was pregnant. Both of them had children.
Yeah, one was a
5 children and going on 8. I mean, good grief.
Why does the story end there?
Where is it going to go is my question. How far is this story going to go? How outrageous are we going to get about what happened? Do we care to know Miss Lizama? She was pregnant. She had life in her.
Mm-hmm.
Her daughter, can you imagine the anguish that her 12-year-old daughter was going through when her mother was hit, according to the story, and hit her as her body flew? And then to watch her mother land. And according to that story, the pickup truck opened both doors on both sides. The individuals looked at her on the ground and then drove away. According to the story.
Right.
Where is it going to go, Vince?
Piqued my interest. For real. Yeah.
I was sick when I read that story.
I feel like
front page.
I feel like that's all we'll hear.
No, I hope not. I hope that they follow that story through.
I mean, because how many auto pedestrian accidents has there been since the beginning of the year?
Well, see, that's the problem.
All the stories have ended with this person died. Let's move on to the next story.
I don't think so. I mean, the follow through appears to be there. But I'm a mom.
Mm-hmm.
You have a life in you. That's 2 lives that were snuffed out. On a road that is poorly lit. The woman had to walk to the store. I don't know. The facts in that story baffle me. Because according to the story, she was walking to a store or walking somewhere to get food without money? How do you do that? Mm-hmm. And then calling someone to give her a ride back home. Nobody answers, so she gets on the road and walks with her 12-year-old daughter.
That's the one that got hit on Sing Sing, right?
I don't know where that... Somewhere in Davido.
Oh, okay.
I think near Palawan Street or whatever, something like that.
I'm getting the stories mixed up.
Yeah, but it's like... That really bothered me. I'd be like fly on wallpaper on that story. I wouldn't let that go. If I was still active, I'd be all over that.
I wish somebody's on it right now.
I'm sure they are.
Okay.
I mean, Mindy Fothergill. Well, I'm still calling her Mindy Fothergill. Mindy Uggan is now in charge of the Post, and Mindy was also an investigative reporter. Great respect for her professionalism and her work, her journalistic work, and she's just like that. She's not gonna let that go. She's gonna want to know, just like the Troy Torres story. Mm-hmm. I told her, follow that.
At what point does it become sensationalization, though?
It can't be if you're a responsible reporter.
Yeah, but at one point does it? If you're not, at what point does it?
From the beginning. If you're not a responsible reporter, it's sensation from the beginning. If you're a responsible reporter, it never becomes sensationalized. It can't.
Because you're careful of the information you're putting out.
You're a reporter. You're a journalist. You're a professional journalist rather than someone who's out just trying to WhatsApp people.
Here, take a picture and put a couple lines under it.
Yeah. Journalism is a sacred responsibility. It really is. Because you are informing people, so you have the fiduciary responsibility to get your facts straight. And you have the responsibility to update those facts.
Yeah.
You don't just make headlines and then forget it. Follow it.
But not only that, recognize when you're wrong too, right?
Reporters should never be wrong.
Plot twist.
Should never be wrong. They should update their stories. That doesn't make it wrong. Wrong is when you don't have the right facts, right? You put the wrong street down or whatever. That doesn't happen. That's not that I'm aware of. I've never seen a story misquote people. I mean, misrepresent the story. Misquotes are easy to do, and when I was actively on the radio, I insisted on carrying a mini tape recorder so that I would not misquote people. And so that's why when I got on the radio, I was like, wait a minute. I was standing next to that reporter. That's not what the guy said. Here's what he said. And I play back. That's what makes responsible journalism.
Okay.
So if you go somewhere and you don't have your recorder and then you come back and paraphrase, you need to say, I'm paraphrasing, but this is what happened based on what my recollection. You have a responsibility to say that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't rely on my I don't rely on my memory. I record everything.
I don't rely on my memory too.
Yeah.
I literally can forget my keys right after this
And that's
as we
human,
walk out
right?
the door.
That's human.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot. So this morning, I get up at 4 o'clock. I'm participating in an island-wide survey for the pulatet, the moorhen, the common moorhen. I make my coffee. I get all my gear together. I get all my documents together. I get my raincoat. It's wet. I put on my shoes for the mud and everything, and I walk out. And in a Ganya, I go for my flask, and it's not there. I left my coffee on the counter. So it happens. That
Right.
doesn't mean you're losing your mind. It just means you forgot something. There's all these other things, and I put them all together because I have a habit of saying, okay, this is where I'm going to be. Everything I need here, I grab, I leave.
Yeah.
I had everything but my flask. And so I said, forget it. I don't have time. But the
Yeah.
rain delayed me. I was supposed to be out on the field by 6. I was out by 6:30. Half an hour, I had to deal with that squall this morning.
Right,
It was
right.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I got wet from my waist down. I was in a raincoat because I'm driving on the cart and the wind's blowing and the rain is all on me, and so my top half is dry and my bottom half is cold. And thank God I had those shoes because my feet were warm. So I managed to the thing, but it took longer because of the squalls. And when it blows, there's just no protection when you're in a golf cart. And I had 27 holes to count.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had a busy morning. Then I came home and took a nap. I said, boy, if I don't take a nap, I don't know what kind of show Vince is going to have. I'm going to be yawning. Right,
Well,
Matt?
Well, so far so good. So far
thank
so
you.
good. Yeah. I want to change.
I want to make sure that I finish the thoughts on investigative reporting.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Let's do it.
Okay. Investigative reporting is a fact-finding mission. You need to go find the facts. And that takes a long time. So when you're fact-finding, that's not talk show.
Right.
That's investigative. You are looking into things, and you need to interview everyone that's associated to the topic, and you need to be able to do your homework. You need to be able to cross-reference everything, and that doesn't meet deadlines.
Do you think that's more important than being the first to report it?
There's two different purposes. Being the first to report it, they call that breaking news.
Mm-hmm.
That's a one-up on the next guy, right?
Okay.
That's important. But you're breaking the news and then nothing after that? That's irresponsible.
Mhm.
Break it, follow.
Right.
Close it, yeah. So investigative reporting, I told John, if you want me to do this, you need to give me the opportunity to let you know when there's a story or not a story. So if you want me to go investigate Vince Ada, and I go and investigate Vince Ada,
Please, no.
and I come back and tell you there's nothing there,
There is nothing.
you don't character associate or character assassinate him on radio. You do not have permission until I say there's a story.
I see.
And I said, only then will I agree to do this. And then I said, how much are you paying me?
Show me the money.
And he said, do I have to pay you? I said, if it's in addition to what you're paying me to do in there, yes. Why do you think it's for free?
Right.
And so that's how it came. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it
How long
very
you do
well.
that for?
I had 12 huge stories. I still have all the tapes.
I think you're ready for your own Netflix special.
No. No. There's it. I mean, we have a collection, and one day it is a learning resource
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure.
You know, your generation.
One
is like,
day you're gonna be. They're just gonna have your own section in the museum of
I
all your
don't think
recorded
so.
of all your recorded stuff.
No, the museum is
that.
not built for that. That's not what the museum is for.
Eventually, I mean,
Not
maybe
the
not.
museum.
Maybe not in the next. How about the next 100 years?
Not ever in the museum. That's not the place for it.
Where people want to go and sit down and listen to
Not the museum.
audio.
A library.
Okay,
Not the museum. It's not a
I would say
display.
both. Yeah, but still, I mean, you can still also display the work. Maybe okay. Think about it like this. Maybe someone's recognizing all the work that you've done.
That's
50 years
different,
from
but
now.
that wouldn't be my work. That'd be more me, right?
Yeah, it sort of is your work.
It would be me, and like what you're doing now. What did you do here, and when did you do that?
But
And
you're driving thought, right? That is you.
it's a work that I did, Vince. If you want to know about oral history of World War II survivors, you do that display. If you want to know about investigative reporting and the 12 topics and stories, you do that display. If you want to know about the bird history or the history of Guam or my video documentaries, then you do that display.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're just different facets of my career.
Right.
Advertising, doing the advertising agency.
Yeah.
Where do I start? Where do I end?
And that's why they're gonna have a whole room dedicated just to you, and it's gonna be in different colors,
Color coded, right?
of all the different aspects of your life, from sales to newspaper to radio to now where I want to come to is to documentarian. How did you become one? What made you want to start documenting World War II survivor stories? I mean, sorry, I pointed to the book, but it's I mean,
Not my book, by the way.
yeah. That's why I said sorry.
My book's not yet out, but when it does, it will.
That's why I said sorry. I pointed to the book.
No.
'cause
Actually, it's World War II survivors.
right.
And that book, Many Faces, or what does it say? Real Faces.
Real Faces. Yeah,
That was put out by the World War
Frank
II. Yeah, Frank Bloss, my nephew.
Okay.
But and that's a good work. I mean, this is important.
Right.
Right? This kind of work is important, and not only one person does it. A community of people need to do it.
Right.
And so I applaud everyone's work for it. Mine doesn't come out because it's not yet done. When it comes out, you'll have to get your copy
I would love one.
and expect to be floored.
I would even purchase a copy.
Yeah. So anyway, how did I get into video documentary or it's actually oral history led to that. While I was on K57 on Tuesdays, I said, man, I want to interview people. And I said, John, I'm going to convert Tuesdays into, can you survive an interview with Rlene live? And he goes, that sounds interesting. Who are you going to invite? I said, anybody who's willing to come and challenge it. Okay. So I called a bunch of people, and everyone that I called came. And it got to the point where I would know nothing about the person that I'm interviewing on purpose because I don't want to predict the questions, right? So it got to the point where John said, you're going in there. Do you know that she's going to learn everything about you and she's going to make you cry? And they looked at him and said, that's the challenge, John. So I actually created a certificate. You survived an interview with Rlene live. And everyone that came in got the certificate. It was fun.
Yeah.
So my job as an interviewer is to find the person's story. I don't ask them. Job's to find it.
Right. You just sort of pick pick
Well,
through.
there's certain things that you know
what
about a
to
person,
say.
right?
Yeah.
You know something about them. For
Uh-huh.
example, if they're a U.S. attorney or
Right.
if they're an artist or whatever,
Right.
you know something
the
about
surface level. Right.
them. You know something about them.
Mhm.
Your job now is to unravel them,
Mm-hmm.
to find out who they are. And people used to sit there and listen to that show, and they would get nervous because it's like, oh, here she goes. She's going for the throat. Or, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that. You know, that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so they would turn on the show, and it was fun. I enjoy the learning process. It wasn't any more than that. I really wanted to know, you know, who these people are. They're like dominoes in our community. They contribute to this community. Who are you? You know, so that's what I would say. I said, I'm here with Vince Atta, and we're going to find out everything we can about him. And I would say, who are you, Vince Atta?
You sound like Dr. Bonifacio, 10th grade. I'm getting flashbacks right now.
Dr. Bonifacio. Who
Yeah.
Bonifacio?
Goodness. Did you have Bonifacio at FD?
No.
The only Bonifacio I knew, which will be
old
coming
Filipino,
Oh, no.
skinny old
out.
Filipino
No.
guy.
Oh, you went to Father Duenas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So this Bonifacio that I knew is from Palau. He was the first journalist in Micronesia.
Yeah, the Bonifacio I know, he translated the Bible into 6 different languages or something like
Which
that.
Bible?
I guess
The
just
whole
normal-
Bible?
Yeah, just the normal Bible. Yeah.
The normal Bible. There's no such thing as a normal Bible. Which
I've seen different versions of the Bible, but
no,
King James
there-
version,
okay,
the
yeah. If it's a version,
New
then,
International
yeah.
Translation.
okay, a translation is one thing, a version is another.
Okay.
Yeah. So if he translated it, which language did he translate to?
I don't want to
don't
start.
remember?
I don't want to start getting quoted on the languages
In his own show.
on my own show. I will plead the fifth on that information, and but yeah,
It's
that's-
important because I interviewed people from the American Bible Association and other associations that worked on publishing Bibles in the Micronesian languages.
Okay.
Yeah, and so one of I never heard his name.
Yeah, okay.
You have to do homework.
It's either he spoke 6 languages or translated the Bible. He was our theology teacher, so
Okay.
that's why that information is sort of like crossing in my mind right
Okay.
now.
The only people that I know that translated the Bible were for Pohnpeian, Marshallese, Palauan, and Kosharayan, I believe.
And yourself.
No, I did not translate
No?
the Bible. No.
Okay.
What we did with regard to the 1908 Chamorro Bible is there was a Seventh-day Adventist teacher named Clarence Thomas IV.
Okay.
And when he came to Guam, of course, being Seventh-day Adventist, he wanted to do a Chamorro class with the Bible, right? I mean, so he set out to find the Chamorro Bible, and he couldn't find it anywhere. So he went to Tina Rose Munoz Barnes, who was a senator at the time, and he said, Senator Barnes, do you know anybody who has a Chamorro Bible? And she said, no, but I have a cousin who's been looking for one. So Clarence did further research and found the 1908 Chamorro Bible at a reserve library, I think at Yale. And he borrowed it in an interlibrary loan process because of the library at Guam Adventist borrowed the book from this other library, and they call that an interlibrary loan. So
Okay.
the library borrowed the book, and by that time, Clarence realized there was no copyright on the book because there was no purpose to republish it. There was
Okay.
no desire to republish it. So the copyright had expired. So what Clarence did was he Xerox copied the entire Bible, the 1908 Chamorro Bible, Psalms, Acts, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And they call that a partial because it's not a complete Bible. It's only from Psalms to
It's like half of New Testament
John.
or something like that.
No, it's all the Testaments, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then it's the
Well, yeah,
book
it's all
of
the
Acts.
Gospels and then
The Gospels.
Right.
And the book of Acts and then Psalms. So they call that a partial, Vince, because whenever you don't have a full publication, those are the most important books. I'll tell you why. Psalms praises God, right? It tells you his name, tells you why you praise him. The book of Acts is the establishment of the Christian congregation. It tells you how a Christian congregation should be established. And then, of course, the gospel of Christ, right? His 3.5 years on the earth as an adult after his baptism.
Right.
So those are the important books to know when you are establishing a Christian belief. And so Clarence wanted to get that Bible in Chamorro to have a Chamorro class so they could discuss the scriptures. When he brought it and Xeroxed it, there was an unearthing of human remains at the Yilik River site. And there was a construction process over there, and they unearthed some remains. So my cousin Linda Uggan from HBO, she's the SHPO here, the State Historic Preservation Officer. She called me and she said, "Prima, what are you doing today?" And I was in Jonia at the time. I don't even know what I was doing there. I was just coming out of the school, and she called me, and I said, "I'm in Jonia. Where are you?" She goes, "Come down here. I'm down at Yilik." So I made a U-turn and went down to Yilik. And at the same time, Tina called, and she goes, "Prima, can you come down to Yilik? I have somebody I want you to interview." She's so excitable. I said, "I'm already heading down there." She goes, "Oh, good. So I get down to Yilik, and I take my camera out, and I take a picture of this group that are there for some kind of a presentation or some kind of rites. And I take a picture, and this tall black man with this fro is standing in the background, and he stood out to me like a sore thumb. And I thought, who is that? And so I covered the thing, and then when we were finished, Tina said, "Come here, I want to introduce you." So I went over, and she said, and it was the black guy. I thought, I wondered who you were. And she said, "This is Clarence Thomas IV. He found the Chamorro Bible, and I told him that you've always been looking for one." And I said, "You have a Chamorro Bible?" And he explained to me what it was. He said, "Come." We followed him to his car. He pulled out this binder, and he had these sheets in protective sheets, right? And this was the Chamorro Bible. And I'm looking at this, and I said, "I want a copy of this. Can you please follow me to my husband's office?" And he said, "Right now?" I said, "Absolutely. I'm not letting you out of my sight."
Right.
So he followed me down there, and they made a copy. And then Clarence, I don't remember how long. Oh, we did recordings, and he had a couple of people made recordings, and then Clarence left. He had a different assignment, and he left. And then for the next 3 years, Clarence painstakingly cleaned up that Xerox copy, because Xerox machines have, you see them, they're not really clean, right?
Right.
So he needed to make sure that they were either a Xerox dust or something, or if it was an accent in the actual printing.
Right.
After he did that, and he let me know what he was doing, I said, "Clarence, can we print that? I want to recirculate that Bible. The people of Guam need to know that they were literate at that year, 1908. I mean, we were literate.
Considered aliens, if anything.
We were reading Chamorro, and we had a Bible in our language. So I think a year went by, and because he was representing the Seventh-day Adventist Church, there had to be some kind of permission or something. And finally, he gave my husband and I permission. Of course, I had to ask Bob. I said, "Listen, I have this." Told him the story. I said, "Can we use personal funds?" Because I didn't have a grant for it. Who's going to give you a grant to publish a Bible anyway? Yeah. So I said, "Bob, we have to print it." And
I would assume the Catholic Church, but
no, they actually got involved with collecting it from the people and keeping it from them, and that's the history. That's a fact. So
that's why
it wasn't available.
Circulation,
but they were not fully responsible for it not being available. Okay, because there is also typhoons to worry about. Right. So every time there was a typhoon in the wooden homes, a lot of the damage, the roofs would blow off, everything would be destroyed. So a lot of them were destroyed that way. And then, of course, they were gathered and collected, so nobody really used them. And the church didn't use it in teaching. So there was no purpose for having. So even though there were people that had it, the ones that had kept it were the Protestants. Which, all Protestants have Bibles. Everybody knows this. And they read them. So I remember I said, "Bob, can we print this?" And he said, "How much is it going to cost?" I said, "I'll find out." So I went to a local printer, and that experience was really bad. They sent the Bible to the Philippines. It came back. I opened it up. The pagination was all wrong. The lines didn't match. I said, this is not going to work. I stopped. I said, I have to go to Los Angeles. I flew to Los Angeles. I sent the paper, the hard print to Michigan, to Thompson Shore. They sent me back the proof in that 2 weeks. And once I saw the pagination all correct and the presentation clean, I said, do it. So we printed 2,000 of the Chamorro only. We didn't do the diglot.
Okay.
Because the 1908 is English and Chamorro, facing pages. What we decided to do is print only the Chamorro. So we printed it in 1 week. It was all sold out.
Wow.
2,000 books, gone. Dilemma. What do we do? I said, we should print 2,000 more. My husband said, maybe we should print the original. I said, nobody wants that. Why not? Because everyone is so Chamorro-centric right now. You put English in there, they're going to think it's spoiled or something. And he goes, Rlene, you're...
Of course they would try to wash English into the Chamorro Bible.
He said, Rlene, that's the original Bible. And they're still going to get the Chamorro.
Yeah.
And so, of course, what am I going to say, right? He's the money bags. So I said, okay. So we print.
Okay, I'll give you some say.
Oh, he has every say. If he says no, it's an idea. If he says yes, it's reality.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're a wonderful team. My husband has been a very empowering man. He is not threatened by my strength. He's not threatened by my drive. He actually loves it. He thinks it's wonderful that I do these works, and he sees the reception of the work, and he's happy to make the investment.
Right.
And then other people do too. When they see that, when they see what we've done or what I've done with the projects, they call up, or they'll tell her to call me. I want to help. And that's why I said to you, you're only as good as what?
Your last show. That's right.
So make it a good show. Every time.
So far, so good. So far, so good.
Somebody contacted me and said, I follow, what is your call name?
Oh, Master Random. Yeah.
Master Random. Said, I follow Master Random.
Is his name Sonny?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I'm on another project.
Yeah, he messaged me. He's like, who is she? I was like, you will find her very interesting. He's like, can I get her contact number? I was like, most definitely.
Why did he even ask who it was?
I don't know. He's working on a project. So
yeah, he's an artist.
Yeah, he's a comic book artist. So I think he has something up his sleeves that you can probably help him out with.
Well,
so.
He asked me a question that I didn't know, and I'm going to find out.
Yeah. I'm just people connecting people. Right?
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a resource.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
a resource. So, I mean, I could say, I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right? But I do care. It's part of our history. And if it will help somebody to advance their projects, I'm right there. I'll do whatever I can.
Fantastic.
Yeah. He was so funny. He goes, how much do you charge for consultation? And I said, that question just cost you. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
You can PayPal me or Venmo me.
No, that was a WhatsApp. He WhatsApped me. I think he WhatsApped me.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, if you don't talk to her before I do, I'll let her know that.
No, he did.
Okay,
He did not
awesome.
waste any time. And I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
For sure. I feel like something's happening here on Guam. I tell people on the show all the time. I was like, something's happening here. I mean, yes, there was a revival sort of in when FestPac came of the Chamorro culture, but also all encompassing of everybody who calls this place home. We find that there is opportunity here.
Oh my goodness.
Despite what we've been told, back from maybe people from the 80s, but
what did they tell you?
Well, traditionally it's go to college, get a good education, get a great job, buy the house, raise the family. That's the dream, right?
And that's a good dream.
It is. I'm not crapping on it. I went to college, I got a job, and I'm
and
here
you're
right
building
now.
home.
And I'm building home, right? And it's
Are you
now,
married?
No.
Why not?
I feel like I still have some stuff left in me to. I don't know. And there's no real. I have no real.
You have a
reason.
girlfriend?
I do.
She live here?
Yeah, she does.
Marry her. Why do you build a house and you're not building a house?
I just feel like I'm not ready yet.
Then you shouldn't have a girlfriend living with you.
Thank you.
Not fair to her. Right, Matt?
I think we're under a mutual understanding.
Oh, she's here at her own risk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can go at any time.
Oh, I would leave.
It's a new age. It's a new age.
It's a wrong age. There's no right practice. It's a wrong age.
I agree.
Not good for you, not good for her.
Yeah. But just going back to now, I'm seeing that a lot of us are seeing that there is real opportunity here, despite saying that no, you can only find success if you go to the mainland, if you leave Guam, is what I really meant. Is what I really was trying to. No, it's just a common understanding. You know, anybody who goes out to the States, right? You want to make it big, leave.
I don't know very many people who go to the States make it big. Can you name 5?
I can name 5.
Name them.
Right at this moment.
If they made it big, I want to know who they are.
Let me see.
I can name 5 people here that made it big staying on Guam.
No, I mean, yeah.
What do you
it's just
you see that?
It's our perception though of how we grew up, right? Is we saw people leave, and we saw
but there's a reason they're leaving. Why did they leave?
Right. And maybe that's something we didn't understand as kids, right? Or as young teens is the reason why they're leaving.
When the middle class gut happened here, there's 2 reasons why people leave. They can't compete, or they can afford to. If you invest, if you buy a house and invest here, when I say invest, I mean settle, right? Then you contribute. Now, I will tell you that in my observation of the way life is on Guam, the culture drags people down financially. The obligations in the culture drag people down. The reciprocity in the culture drag people down. You cannot be middle class on Guam the way you can be middle class in the States, because the reciprocity culture there is not the same. It's not as obliging or obligating as it is here.
Probably 0, if anything.
No, it's not 0, because clusters of Chamorros cluster, right? Okay. Chamorros like to cluster.
Oh, okay. You're saying Chamorros out in the, or people from Guam out in the mainland.
Who move in the States.
Okay,
they live within each other.
I guess I was just saying.
Or they travel, whatever, and they help each other,
right?
But here in Guam, it's a daily thing.
Right. Wow, that's very interesting thought, yeah.
It's a daily thing. How can you build your house if you're giving your money away every single day to something? It's expensive in that regard. That's cultural dictates. In the States, you can pick and choose. You don't have to drive to the next state or whatever. Give them $20 or whatever. You can ignore it, right?
If you ignore it here, you're going to see them at Payless.
Yeah, exactly. Or at the corner of the street.
Right.
With their kids on the grass. You know?
Yeah.
Very obliging, very obligating. And emotionally taxing, and if you, I mean, to go to Novena and the rosary and the funeral and whatever.
Kid's birthday party, first birthday, second birthday, third birthday, and that's all different kids.
Graduation this year, my goodness, you have pre-K graduation, kindergarten graduation, eighth grade. What's there to look forward to by the time you're in the 12th grade?
College.
I mean, before it wasn't that. Everything now is so ceremony driven. That costs money. Very hard to, and then of course, this is right now the economy. It's a seller's market. So you try to buy a house now, concrete house.
Yeah.
No way. Too expensive.
Yeah.
Way beyond. How long have you been here?
I've been here couple years.
Yeah.
It's
a nice location.
Yeah.
What do you pay for it?
Oh, let's we don't want to start discussing rent.
Sure you do. That's the economy of scale.
My pocket is hurting.
Well, but you're paying for it for some reason, right?
Right.
So it's either location.
It's affordable.
Okay.
I'll keep it at that. It's affordable. you
Okay.
know?
Well,
And
that's
so,
good.
And that's why
You're
I
an
choose it.
engineer.
Right.
So you can afford it.
Yeah.
This is an expensive area.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're right in the heart of Agana. Hopefully one day the restoration will occur and
Right.
people will move into Agana.
I believe that it's coming as sooner than we think.
It's only going to
Ghanaians.
come if the demand brings it. You know, like they say, build it and they will come.
For sure.
They need to do something in Agana.
Yeah, I think encouraging people to open up small businesses here and
Little
allowing
restaurants
right
things
and
like that,
allowing
yeah.
people who do own buildings here maybe a tax incentive for giving less smaller rents for people who are trying to start a small business, because as expensive it is to live down here, I'm pretty sure it's just as expensive to own a business down here. Right.
Yeah, that rent's not cheap.
Yeah.
So why did you become an engineer? Are you building bridges?
No, I'm actually a management engineer.
Oh,
Right. So I manage engineers.
okay. So you're more administrative.
Right.
Why did you choose that?
Yeah. Somebody told me that it's not the engineers that make money. It's the person who manages the engineers that make money.
Well, I don't know. That's an interesting field, engineering.
Yeah. It's so broad. I enjoy it. I just enjoy meeting the people who are in it. Right. Because
You just fit totally out of place that day. When you came up to me and I said, "What do you do?" "I'm an engineer." I was like, "Really? Wow, you're so young."
you're not the first person to be like.
But how old are you?
I'm 30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I turned 30 last year, so I'll be
Yeah.
31.
Good
this
for
year.
you. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
I like that. I like that day. That was a very good energy in that room.
Yeah, I think the amount or the different kinds of people in there, especially the
Right.
construction guys, they
Yeah, they had
always a little
construction
bit more
engineers,
lively.
resource people, architects. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So it's we went off on a killer tangent there.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, we were in documentary mode.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. And how did you get into documentaries?
So as the Tuesday Arlene Live K57 experience developed, people realized, wow, she's a good interviewer. They liked the interviews. I mean, people were glued. And then the Department of Chamorro Affairs asked me if I would interview World War II survivors. I said no. And then they asked me again, and I said no. And they asked me again, and I said no.
Why were you so
Because I
hesitant?
know what I know how I am, and I know how much time that was going to take, and I had no time in my life at that time to do that. And so Joshua Tenorio brought over to K57 my aunt, Catherine Uggan, my mother's cousin, and another relative, Yamashita, and they muscled me and said, "We need you to interview World War II survivors." And I said, "Okay, I'll come and talk to them," to Joshua's group, or DCA, Department of Chamorro Affairs. So I went over there and I said, "How many people do you want interviewed?" And they said, "Can you interview 10? I said, 10? They said, "Yeah." "Is that too many?" "Too many. 10 World War II survivors." "What for?" And they said, "Well, because we want to get the history." I said, "What kind of level, what kind of baseline are you trying to get from 10 people?" And they said, "How many would you interview?" I said, 50? To get some kind of, idea of what's happening? And they said, "Oh, okay." And they said, I said, "How much would you pay?" They said, 20,000. I said, 20,000 for 10 people. Why don't you just give me the check and I'll go have lunch? I said, "Is that what you've been paying people around here? They've been getting a lot of money for nothing."
Right.
And then they said, "You would interview 20, 50 people for that?" I said, "Yeah, because then you can get something from it, right?" So they said they wanted audio, so I recorded them on audio, but I went one step further, Vince. I took their pictures and I put it in a binder and I gave it to them. And one of the staff workers there, I think her name is Jackie, she listened to every single tape and was just blown away. Of course, I interviewed them, So I knew what was already on those tapes. And then that led to another opportunity. And because I was already interviewing them, from the first interview, I had a video camera. Because I knew that there was no way I could go back to these people at their age. There was no way I could recapture.
And ask them again the same story.
Or ask them to elaborate.
Right.
So every one of them was an in-depth oral history interview from day one. And I just kept going. I just kept interviewing and interviewing and interviewing, and that's how it happened. And then my daughter Miley was going to UOG in 2006, 2007. And she went up to see my girlfriend, Lavon, the young girl at Mark. And they had a new director, John Peterson, PhD. And he said something to Lavon about, we need to get an oral historian. And Lavon said, her mother, get her mother. And so Miley came home and said, Mom, Dr. Peterson wants to talk to you. I said, who's he? He's the director at Mark. I don't want to talk to him. And so I said, I'm too busy. I don't want to get involved. So, she kept hounding me. And finally, Miley came into my office and she was like perplexed. Mom, please. I looked at her and I said, what's it got to do with you? You're relaying a message. It's up to me if I want to call them back. Would you just please call them back? I want to go there and not have to worry about you not calling them back. I said, all right, I'll call them back. So I called him back, went up and met him, and he said, I would like to, make you a research associate, appoint you as a research associate here at Mark to do this because of the forward movement thing, right? They wanted to interview the different locations, and they wanted an oral historian to go into the study. And I mean, that was right down my alley, Vince. Mm-hmm. And I thought you wanted me to interview World War II survivors. Like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I mean, I've done so many of them, and there's a collective story already. And it's not important that you get everyone's story. That's not the point. The point is that you get a general idea of the things that occurred in a particular period by a number of people that survived it, right? Then you have it. Then you have the meat and potatoes. The particular experiences are very important, but if that's what you want to do, and then with the World War II survivor reparation relationship, I covered those stories down to the legislature when they had the war rep hearings, but I didn't use any of the interviews because they were war rep centered. So I'm not saying that they were exaggerated, because you can't exaggerate a victimized opportunity or situation.
Right.
You're victimized, period. Now, the reason I didn't use it is that I didn't conduct those interviews. If I don't conduct the interview, I don't feel I have the right to use them. I may reference them. I can talk about them, explain who participated. I took all their pictures, but I don't use them in my work because I didn't interview them. It's not my interview. Yeah. So then I went up and I said to John, he said, I would like to appoint you. I said, we talked. We had John Peterson's a very nice guy. I really like him. And I said to him, well, appreciate the offer, but if I don't get a presidential appointment, I'm not going to do it. And he said, I have the authority to do this. I said, I'm not questioning that. I've just been an investigative reporter on this island. I know this place. No one's going to respect that.
That's right.
They're going to say, she didn't come up the ranks. She didn't, they'll make their own excuses, right?
Who's this?
You're in an academic environment. Right. Give me a break. You're a chomp. I said, I'm going to be mincemeat, and they're not going to accept it. And it's going to create so much trouble. And it will still do that with a presidential appointment, but they can't disrespect that. And if they do, it's just a matter of time. It's like bringing blood into a body and the antibodies attack it.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. So I got a presidential appointment. I accepted the appointment. They got me a presidential appointment. Dr. Udine Lee, PhD, was the acting vice president or president at the time. And so he appointed me. Very nice guy. Very empowering man.
And that's where everything
and that's where my documentary days started, because it's not that Mark pays me to do it. What my relationship with Mark is because of the forward movement was delayed, right? So when it was delayed, there was no money coming into Mark. There was no way to pay me. John gave me the office because I would interview people, and I still do. I still use the office to interview people, especially when it's raining and I can't do it at their house. So we go there, but I only go there like, at opportune times because look at this. It's very important it's quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Distracting noise would really throw the interview off.
That's right.
Yeah. So I went there, and then as a result, one thing led to the next, and I started working on the Meningen because Linda Uggan said we want documentaries. So the first documentary for the historic... I'm sorry. I need to back up. What happened was with the video documentaries is the Japan Oral History Association contacted me and said, we understand that you interview World War II survivors, and we would like you to come to Japan to present to the Oral History Association. I said, I'm not coming to Japan to tell you what you want to hear. If you bring me to Japan, you're going to have to hear what happened here.
Right.
Are you ready for that? And they assured me they were. I said, okay, then you got to pay for me to get there. And they did. And I thought, okay. So I took my materials and I went there and I presented the first documentary, Oral History, what is it? I forgot the title. Oral History Overview of Guam and Micronesia. And I featured some World War II survivors in there of something that was coming up. So I went there, and Vince, I have to tell you, I really felt bad for the Japanese people in that room because these are oral history practitioners. They're not your common ordinary Japanese. So they have an idea of oral history. They have an idea of the depth of the skill that it takes and the discipline, right? They're oral practitioners. And they were sitting there aghast at what was happening, watching Chamorro, World War II survivors, brought to tears, shaking in their accounts, and learning about what happened during the Japanese occupation of Guam. It was very, very moving. At the end of that week, in my room, I sat in something very similar, no recording, with one of the practitioners who criticized everything that had been done prior to that. And why had the Japanese not heard? I said, you're not ready. Your people are not ready for this.
Right.
Do they really want to hear it? I said, and there's another side. There's also the Japanese soldiers that were sent out here. And there's the Japanese nationals that were living in Saipan who were killed, jumped off suicide cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were indoctrinated that the United States is going to rape them or whatever, whatever they told them. I don't know. I wasn't there. But those people feared
their government,
the U.S. government, to the point that they committed suicide. They also believed, to some extent, that the emperor, right, was their god. That was changed after the end of World War II. Mm-hmm. They learned.
Right.
That's why I said, typhoon hits Guam. Where's the supernatural protection? Something happens in your life that triggers reality. What is that? What does it take for you to wake up and realize, okay, that's a nice myth, but that's not. Why did these people jump off that cliff? I have, going back to the ADA, Tatambodik was the first mayor of Saipan. He's an ADA.
Okay.
One ADA, right? He's your grandfather's uncle. Okay. He's my step-grandfather, great-grandfather, because my grandfather married his daughter.
Okay.
Tatambodik loved children, and his kids didn't have that many children. So he had a Japanese associate who had children, like 5 children. So he took the youngest daughter, and he asked him, can we take her on weekends? And, and Nanambodik and Tatambodik loved her as their own daughter, Vince. And so during the war, when the war broke out, the Japanese father, who was a soldier in Japan, came and told Tatambodik he wants his daughter. He wanted the family to be together. He knew he was going to die. or if they were going to die, he wanted them all together.
Right.
So they took the family and they went into the jungles just like every other Japanese did at that time. And the father committed harakiri, killed himself. He knew that that was the honorable thing. That's what they were taught, right?
Mhm.
You can't judge that.
Right.
You can disagree with it, but you can't judge it. That's what they were taught. So he committed suicide before the invasion. I believe three of the children and the mother were killed. 2 survived, a brother and this young girl. So during when they were all piling after the war, they were bringing all the survivors to the camp in Susupi. She was in one of the trucks, and Tatambodik saw her, so took her. My mom survived the war, and all her siblings survived the war. My grandfather survived the war, and my grandmother survived the war. So my mother grew up in Saipan with Antoneta Arat.
Okay.
Antoneta Cepeda Arat. She became a nun. So that was mom's best friend. And she's Japanese, but she was an Arat. She was mom's cousin. She was, they grew up together and they were friends for life until Sister Antoneta could no longer know anybody. Mom was still visiting her in Saipan when she would go over there. So here you see this whole, something come out of this situation. And Sister Antoneta told me in her interview that, she was confused in the beginning. She knew she looked different. She looked at Nanambodig and Tatambodig and my mom and everybody else, and she knew they didn't look like her.
Right.
But why was she in this family? And who was that man that was coming on the weekend and giving her Japanese food and treating her so special and so nice? And why was he here? What's the connection? She didn't know that until war. That was her father.
Wow. What a story.
Many more like that. That's why I devoted my time to oral history.
How many years was that?
I started I started with the oral history 2002, and then I have to look at when the publication started. It might have been 2003, 2005. I was doing like every year, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, your list of documentaries is
they're
incredible.
13.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an academic term or saying, publish or die.
I think it's a creative content
Right? Matt?
content creator is a name too.
PhDs are supposed to publish their research. Publish or die. I don't see a lot out there. I don't have a PhD. But what am I supposed to do with the information I gather? I believe that publishing it shares it.
Right.
So that's why I publish it. And sometimes I have grant money and sometimes I use my money. But that's
Yeah.
okay. I'm not doing it to make money. I'm doing it because I believe there's valuable information to be learned there.
For sure. And gosh, all the stories that I've gotten out of this show too, it's I realize that same thing. There's just so much to share.
Mm-hmm.
And
There's so much to cover.
right, and
There should be 50 of you doing this every night.
right, and I don't want to be the only one. I tell people all the time, like, you should start a podcast, because I can
Exactly.
only talk to so many people, and we can maybe talk to the same people, but we'll
It's
probably
gonna be
get different. We'll get different information. Yeah, maybe sort of the concrete stuff. Yeah, baseline information we'll get, but you may ask something that I never really even thought of, and so. Yeah, I'm totally on you on that.
When it comes to interviews, there's the element of the instant communication or relationship between the two people is critical. You either have it or you don't have it. It's either there or it's not there. It's not something you can. It's instant.
Right.
You could tell from the very beginning this is gonna be a good interview, or I'm gonna pull teeth.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be.
I know what you feel.
I'm
yeah.
gonna be a dentist today. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
you
going to be messy.
You can sort of gauge super early.
And you quickly don't want to continue it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I'm done. I learned enough. Thank you.
Yeah. Gosh, I feel like I'm talking to a teacher right now.
No,
God.
I've just been there. I've done it.
It's just
I
it's so
know.
awesome because you're the first person to come on my show who is at this sort of depth of being a oral historian and documenting stories that people have. I've only been doing this 3 years.
Yeah, you
And
haven't
I didn't-
documented anything. You're just
Yeah.
publishing it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's it. That's all I'm doing.
That's the
I'm
beginning.
taking what we talk about and I throw it on the internet
Yep.
and it's for you to decipher.
That's it. And see, that's the important part. Okay, so in the work that I've done, I am very neutral about the work. I'm not emotionally attached to the work because I'm not the ultimate decider. That's not my role. My work is to collect it, publish it, produce it, share it. Let the public decide.
Right.
The public knows there's a certain understanding of what happens in a particular community. Everyone knows what's going on. You can't lie about that. If you do, you'll be caught real quick. So why bother?
Yeah.
There's social knowledge.
Yeah, there's an entrepreneur today who says the thing that's piquing people's interest now is truth. It's all people want to hear is
People
truth.
always want truth.
Yeah, but a lot of people lied over the years, right?
Why?
Yeah, self-interest, whatever, gains.
But if we know they're lying.
Yeah, but now more than ever, you can tell when somebody is lying.
Yeah, because that sound, there's no sincerity in it.
Right.
The truth is something that will always last because that's what we all want. And you could tell someone's lying from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, what's your name? George.
And then
That's
Double
not your
blink.
name.
George.
Yeah. Then you start asking people why they do things. Oh, I love doing this. Why? I don't know. I just love it. Well, what do you love about it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, why do you say things that are so empty? Is it because you want approval? Do you want to be popular?
Or maybe don't want to be exposed.
But you're exposing yourself by lying.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that's very, very.
you're
that's very,
exposing
very
yourself by
right.
lying.
But at the moment, I don't think people realize that.
Oh,
when
they
you
do.
Start to lie.
They're not that naive. They just play along. They don't care. Let them look, whatever.
This has been incredible for me.
I've enjoyed it.
I just want to let you know that now from the moment I saw you present and I was like, who is this lady? Like,
Where have you been all my life?
Where
I'm your auntie. Where have you been?
Yeah, and
Your dad comes up to me. How you doing, Prima?
Sweet.
I knew you when you had mucus running down your face, Vince. You just didn't know who I was.
Yeah, it's awesome to really connect with someone on this sort of scale and topic of getting to know people and getting to know people's stories. Yeah, we talked about your career and your story and stuff, but the most important thing that I'm getting out of this is the fact that you find passion in wanting to know more. And
I don't
more.
have the passion in that. I don't understand why that word is overused. What is passion? I don't have passion for this.
You have passion for something, though.
It's interest. I'm interested in it. As soon as my interest is done, I'm on to something else. I don't have passion for this. This is not my passion.
There is a passion on a broad scope, though. Of everything that you've done, there has to be a passion.
No, it's just how I work. If you knew me, you know that. When I do something, I'm in it thoroughly.
Well, you exude passion. I don't know. It's just
maybe
just the way you present yourself. You see that everything that you put all the work that you put into whatever project you're doing.
That's because I want to do a good job.
And maybe
it's because I want
maybe
you.
That's
it's because I want you to look at it and say, "Oh, that's a Steffi thing."
Yeah, and maybe that's where the passion lies. Is that your work is a reflection of yourself, and that's very important to you.
I believe that. I believe that very much. If you talk to anyone who works with me, you will know that even at the point where the publication is about to go to print or about to be published, DVD, printed, I will click that button for delete if I don't like it and start all over again. I don't care how long it takes. If I'm not satisfied, if I don't know that 10 years from now I can play it and feel the same amount of pride and satisfaction that I did when I said print it, it gets deleted. We start all over again. And I've had teen people go,
The guy who pressed delete, like, oh, shit. Fuck you.
they'll sit there and they can't speak. And they'll look at me and I look at them and said, start all over. And their eyes are just like, what was wrong with it? I said, if you can't look at your work and find out what's wrong with it, then you don't know what's right about your work. Delete. Gone. Empty the trash.
Let's not give ourselves a chance to recover that file.
No. I mean, you could probably recover it, right? But I don't look back. I don't look back. I only look forward. I only look forward to doing a better job every time. This book that we published, my first Chamorro children's book, took 2.5 years. I'm not in a rush to publish something. I'm not in a rush to break news. I'm in a rush to do it right. I want you to hold my book and know its quality. I want you to turn those pages and I want it to jump at you. I want the colors. I want you to look at each page and say, what is this page telling me? I don't remember that. Oh my goodness. At the book launch, my cousin Jolene Flores, Respicio, she was sitting in the audience and they did the Chamorro and we read from the largest Chamorro book published ever because I put it up on screen. And I asked all the audience to move up. White people sit in the back. Don't get that. Why do you sit in the back?
Because they're cool.
They want to
That's
fall
where the
asleep.
cool kids sit.
You're not going to fall asleep on my time.
Quick-
move up.
quick
right?
exit, quick
yeah,
exit.
right, maybe. So I asked them to all move up, and I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to read it, and then I'd like you to repeat it. Read after me. The whole book. And when Jolene was sitting there, a flashback, she realized where that story was because when my mother had animal husbandry with the ducklings and the chickens and everything and the pigeons or the doves, she said, I remember going down to that valley. I remember Auntie Freddie doing. I said, why didn't you say something? She goes, because at the time, it was still flashing back. That is oral history. That is storytelling. If you tell stories that people can relate to, everything comes to life. You're not making it up. Why do I want to write fiction when there's still so much for our people and our culture and our language that has to be told? Fiction, forget it. I don't want to make stories up. There's so much that I experienced as a kid that I want to share. So it's historical fiction in the sense that my grandchildren now are the book characters, right? And then the ending doesn't always, it has to be written like a book. So it has to have a punchline or something that, rather than a cliffhanger where you're hanging on for the next book. But yeah, it's a privilege to do all this. And I'm very, very happy that I've been picked to do it because I learned so much from it.
Right. Remember I was saying exuding passion? I just experienced it right now. Whoever's watching, if you watch, just watch it. Rewind it, go back, and just watch everything she just said. That's what I felt the first time I met you. You know what I mean? And you can see it. You can see that you love it. You obviously
I do
love
enjoy
it.
my work.
Even though
it's
even though it's a project to you and stuff like that, you can tell that what you do, everything that you put yourself into, that you do it with all your heart.
Let me tell you something too. I also believe in people. And the editor that worked on the first 5 video documentaries with me, Susan Blanchard. She and I met at KOM.
Oh, can you just mention to everyone what the 5 video series?
Oh, well, the first one was Oral History Overview of Guam and Micronesia. All of this, by the way, is available on Amazon.
Yeah, push it out, yep.
You go to Amazon, you type in Rlene Steffy with a capital R. There's no A in my name.
We'll make that clear in the title.
Yeah, Rlene Steffy, Steffy. If you put that in search, everything that I've published comes out on Amazon.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Susan Blanchard and I met when she was the production manager at KOM. We had a state-of-the-art production equipment, and I was a sales account executive. And so whenever I sold television, Susan and I worked together. We worked very well. We are still friends to this day. So when I was asked by Linda to produce these documentaries, what happened was I was going to Japan, and then Berkeley asked me to fly over to California and to present to the history classes there, which I did. And so when Linda found out that I was going to Japan and then to Berkeley, she said, "Would you come to HBO? I need to present something. Can I use your presentation?" I said, "Sure." So I met her in San Francisco, and we went to the Historic Preservation Office. And then I presented to, I don't know who was in that room, the staff or all these preservation people. And at the end of the presentation, in a presentation, everyone's hands are popping up, right? I want to. But this one, it was the head that raised his hand. And he said to me, "Where have you been?" And I looked at him and I said, "Well, I don't know how to answer that exactly. If you mean like professionally." This is the first time I met him, right? And he said, "How do we get that in the schools?" I said, "Pay for it." And he said, "We will." And so I got 5 different documentaries published by the National Park Service because of that. But it had to tie into a historical context in the sense that there was a historical feature in a preservation sense for the National Park Service. So they didn't just give me money to do whatever I wanted to do, free willy. Mm-hmm. So the first thing Linda wanted to do was the Hagåtña Historic District. And in this district that you live, your neighbors are World War II survivors. The homes that exist right around you.
The Lujan house, the Piquito residence.
Your aunties,
right. Your
grandmother's house. Mm-hmm. But it didn't survive. It didn't. I mean, I don't think that was a World War II house. But the Leongaro house, the Nutley house, the Rosario house, all these homes over by the legislature. Mm-hmm. That's the historic district.
Okay.
Because those homes have ruins from pre-war Guam. That's why they call it a historic district. And then she said, "I need you to do an inventory of all the sites in Hagåtña." So I did. I went out and systematically, combed through what was here. They had the caves. They had the military cemetery. And in that military cemetery, I went and took all the notes about, they have the Cormoran Monument. They have a World War II bunker, that round thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's erosion has filled it in, or it's sunk. So it, no Japanese was lying on his belly. Right. So that was a fortification. Then the fortification at the Paseo, a bunker there as well. The Fort Santa Águeda. I mean, just, there were like 19 locations or 29 different, something like that in the DVD, and we made a documentary out of it. And then the second one, I believe it was Oral History, Hagåtña. I think it was Umatic that was the next one. And then the Umatic, that was interesting. I went down to Humatec. I wanted to name it Humatec, but the grant said Umatic, so it's Umatic. And I went down there, and I was climbing hills, going behind people's homes, walking along the beach, looking for things that are supposed to be there that have since had to deal with erosion or something. The most difficult one to find was a bunker that was located along the bay on the southern side of the bay. And I went 5 o'clock in the morning, crack of dawn, dusk, afternoon, we couldn't find it. Weeks we couldn't find it. So finally, my team and I went down there, and there was a fisherman that was out on the rocks, and I asked Leonard Uriarte, who was helping. I said, "Can you please go ask him if he knows?" The mayor didn't know. They said, "No, there's nothing there." I said, "There's a GPS reading of it. It's here. We have to find it." So Leonard went out to ask the fisherman, who is there all the time, right? All these fishermen, they go around these, never saw it, Vince. And he said, "No, there's nothing here." I was standing within feet of that. And then when Leonard turned and he said, he doesn't know, he saw it. And he said, "R, it's right there to your left." And I turned and I said, we would have never seen it. All the erosion from Soledad on that hillside came down.
On top of
and
it?
the only thing that was visible was the front part.
Well, sheesh.
If I had quit, if I wasn't so persistent, if I wasn't determined to do a good job and find that, it wouldn't be recorded today. That's the difference.
For sure.
I don't call that.
Matt's clapping over there.
Yeah.
Clapping.
I don't call that passion.
Hell yeah.
I don't call that passion. I call that determination to do a good job. I call that drive. I'm hired to do a job. I need to know, my conscience needs to rest that I've done the best job I can. And if I'm not satisfied, if I know it's there, I'm going to find it.
Yeah.
I always say, when I was an investigative reporter, I used to say, if you ever lived, I can find you. You can't hide.
It's almost like the leprosy colony, right?
Oh, that's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking,
Yeah,
for bringing
for sure,
that up.
for sure.
Now, in the leprosy story, I was in Saipan, and I already knew that the leprosy colony existed in Tinian because my mother's first cousins moved from Zap to Tinian after the war. And so it wasn't a site that was missing or we didn't know about. We knew about that. What was not available are the oral histories about the leprosy colony. So whenever I get a job, like when Sonny asked me about this particular thing, which we're not going to mention right now.
Okay, yeah.
When he asked me about it, I said immediately, because of my knowledge of certain people, because of my knowledge of certain people, if I'm asked something, I know exactly who to reach, right? So I sent text, WhatsApp out to certain people that I know would know something about Hotdot. Now, Sonny said that he spoke to the mayor, but the mayor's too young. And I know this thing happened because my father mentioned it to us as children. My father was the kind of man who, whenever there was something happening in this community, we went on a tour. I cannot tell you how tired I got getting on a Navy ship or a Navy submarine or an Air Force plane. It's like, okay, I'm done. I've seen enough planes. I've been on enough ships. I don't get it anymore. I don't want to go there, But he wanted us to be well informed. And so, I mean, even the carnival, the Liberation Parade, 2 out of my whole life, that was enough. They're the same things every year.
Yeah.
I want somebody to create a float of some artistic, historical, cultural value than a hut and coconut trees around it.
Right.
That's not it anymore. It does nothing for me. Take something from our culture and do something like the Rose Parade. I will look for that, right? So anyway, going back to this, I said, I got to go to Saipan and I have to interview people. And because my mom's a World War II survivor, I said, Mom, I need names. Can you please give me names? Give me 2 long yellow sheets back and forth of it. So I went to Saipan and I quote, does anybody know about this? And of course it helped that I spoke Chamorro by then, right? Does anybody know about the leprosy colony? Yeah, go talk to Vince because he went to school in Fiji for that. Went to school in Fiji for what? I went, talked, and then I said, Mom, do you know this guy? His name is Calistro. She goes, he was my neighbor. And I said, he went to Fiji, Mom. She goes, yeah, they call him Doc. I said, what? You even knew this? Why didn't you tell me? She goes, you never asked me. You only asked me for names. You didn't ask me about the leprosy colony. I said, ay, Santa Maria. So, that's what my life's like. It's like one name built upon another name, built upon another name and another experience. And so it's really helpful over the long run, because I went to him and I said, I looked for him. Where does this man live? I went and found him, and I asked him, I told him who I was, and that's also very helpful. Who you are and what family you come from make a difference. But I believe that the biggest help and the biggest credibility that I ever earned was being a talk show host and people listening to my show for 10 years. They knew what they were going to get. They were accustomed to what they were going to get. And it was so refreshing for them. They loved it. So I went to talk to Mr. Calistro, and he told me that, the Trust Territory government put together a group of people because leprosy was a really serious thing for Micronesia, and it was touching us here in the Marianas. Now, that wasn't brought by the Spanish. That was here before that.
Really?
Yes. In any kind of travel or when you're mixing, you're going to be exposed to disease. Right?
Genetic mutations and
No,
stuff
no.
like that.
I'm talking about immigration.
Okay.
You're going to be rubbing up. I don't know how long it was here. I can't tell you that. But what I can tell you is, when I started an interview, one interview led to another interview. It took me to Palau. It took me to Pohnpei. It took me to New Zealand. Because as I interviewed these people, I got the name of the doctor that was the physician at the leprosy colony in Tinian. And I said to my husband, I said, Steph, I call him Steph. I said, Steph, I need to go to New Zealand. He said, what for? What's down there? And I said, I believe that the physician who was at the Tinian colony is still alive. He said, then go. Made my reservations, flew down, interviewed the guy. He gave me everything he had. And the interesting part, I never knew him before that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in those 3 days that I spent with him, he said, can we have lunch? And I said, sure. So we went to lunch, and he bought me this little grain of rice and inscribed on that grain of rice my mission. I'm not going to tell you what it said.
Okay. I was waiting for the punchline.
No,
and right when I was just gonna be like, so what did it say? You said, not gonna tell you.
It said publish.
Okay.
And see, I think that whether they know me or not, something convinces them that I'm going to honor them. Something tells them that one way or another, one day, their role is going to be memorialized in some way. He said, publish. A little grain of rice. Big responsibility.
Yeah.
That's a huge expectation. But he gave me his files.
Basically everything you needed to know.
Everything he had on the Tinian colony. Not what I needed to know. Everything he had. Photographs of the patients, the photographs of the buildings, where it was, the number of buildings, the way they were laid out, everything. And then I said, Doc, did they suffer from leprosy? He said many of them did not. It was some other form of physical, like yaws or something else. But very few actually suffered from leprosy. The ones who lost digits clearly suffered from leprosy.
Right.
And people today still suffer from leprosy, but it's controllable.
Right.
They take medication for it, which is wonderful, right? Because dignity is ripped from you when you have leprosy.
Right.
It's very difficult. You wanna be in the public, and you feel like you're an obstacle or something because you're.
We're a sideshow.
Yeah, and that's just human. But I'm very grateful today that the advancement of medicine has made it so that people can coexist, even with when they have physical limitations or disformities.
Right. For lack of a better word, right.
Yeah, but
So how did that lead you to leprosy on Guam?
well, the whole research, I had to find out how many leprosy colonies existed on Guam.
Yeah.
And then the Leprosy Association, somehow, somebody got my name. I don't know how, because I didn't reach them. They reached me. They invited me to Taiwan. And I didn't know anyone in this group. They invited me to do a presentation in front of the Leprosy Association, and this is worldwide. Pay my bills. Pay my fare. Sure, I'll come. I'm willing to do that, but if you want me to come and present, you pay. Right? So they did. And I went down there, and man, this is huge everywhere else. What's the matter?
No. I think it was just a little knock, and I heard something, and I thought it was from me, but then we just gave each other the...
You just
we're good.
thumbs up to each other. Okay.
We're good.
I thought he wanted to take a break. Matt, are you falling asleep over there?
No.
I think you've piqued his interest.
Yeah. So anyway, I went down there and did the presentation and made really good friends. Again, people who live with this kind of advocacy, spend their entire lives advocating for people who have been affected by this disease and protecting their dignity, the things they do. So they asked me for a story from one of our survivors, and I thought that this one man whom I interviewed in Humatec, or Maleso, was a cousin of Joe Barcenas, Uncle Joseph. I call him Uncle Joseph, not related to him, but just a wonderful man. He was he would call me up. He would say, Mrs. Steffy, did I forget to tell you about this? And I would listen, and I said, okay, you got me on another hunt. I'm on it. So I'd go on another hunt. But he introduced me to his cousin who lost his digits through leprosy. He was 14 years old. He was at the last leprosy colony in Guam, which was Maleso, to the left, south of Soledad, by the river, or by the water. So I asked him who the people were that were there, and he told me the names of the people, and then they moved them to Tinian after World War II.
And that's sort of the connection that you made.
With who?
With the Tinian leper colony.
No, I knew the leper colony existed, but I didn't know that there were leper colonies on Guam.
Okay.
So once I found out what the leper colonies were on Guam, I said, where's the last one? Because I knew that if I found the last one, then I could get names of survivors. And once I got that, then I got the story connected. And then the whole project was done.
Right.
But when the doctor gave me the files, that gave me meat. That gave me material. And then something happened. I don't know how the next development occurred, but former speaker Tony Wampat called me out of the blue. And he said, I'm going to give you something because I know that one day you're going to publish it. Okay, what is it? He said, one of my staffers is going to deliver it to Bob's office. Well, I got ready and went down. And when I went down there were 4 boxes. 2 boxes? 2 or 3 boxes. And they were binders of all the research that Tony Ampinco did on leprosy. I'm thinking, why would he care this much? This was voluminous material, right? And Culion in the Philippines. So I called him up and I said, Uncle Tony, why would you, what is this all about? He said, I heard you're doing research on leprosy. I said, yes, I am. But why do you have all this material? He said, Rlene, when I grew up, nobody talked about my grandfather. and I wanted to know where my grandfather was. Apparently, his grandfather was one of the ones removed from Guam, who suffered from leprosy, taken to Culion in the Philippines, and isolated and died there.
The
No.
speaker, Pico.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And nobody ever spoke about it. He was driven to find him. He was driven to find him and give him an identity and to know. He wanted closure. So at the time, my husband was very close to former Senator and Dr. Ernesto Espaldon. And Ernie was a, what do they call him? He was a surgeon, and not plastic surgeon, but reconstructive surgery. So he would take a bunch of doctors and go to the Philippines every year, I think it was, and they would help children who had cleft palates and any kind of deformity, and they would operate on them in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ernie somehow hooked up with Uncle Tony. I don't know how. All that's all to be learned when I go through the documents. But they hooked up, went to Culion because Ernie's from the Philippines, and he learned about Culion, so he took Uncle Tony there, and the name was on the list. But his grandfather's name wasn't on the list from the ship.
From the departure.
The departure.
Log.
What do they call that? No, what do they call? There's a term for that. The manifest.
Okay.
It wasn't. There was no name. They didn't name the people. They initialed them, and this initial Ampinko is already not a very common initial, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the grandfather's initial was even more uncommon, so it was easy to spot. But when they went to the Philippines, they said yes, he was here. So Uncle Tony went frantic trying to find the remains. But in Culion, the cemetery is limited. So after so many years, they will remove the remains, pile them on top of something, and then put a new deceased down. And his bones got mixed in with everybody else, and Uncle Tony couldn't repatriate them.
What a story. Oh my gosh, how much knowledge has been dropped on us.
You look tired.
No, I am
Matt,
just
I don't know, Matt.
purely
I think he's tired.
amazed at just the amount of stories that you have.
It's
And it just ranges.
yeah, and a lot of it is because I'm asked to do the research, and I really do due diligence because it's somebody's life I'm looking into, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, how long are we going for? What is this, 3 hours?
Just 3 hours and 11 minutes.
You know, when I left the house, I said, Bob, would you like me to bring something back? He says, nope. This tells me it's at 11 o'clocker. 12 maybe.
No, I'm definitely getting you back on. You say you're not going to come back on.
I can't. There's no way. I travel from June to December. There's no way.
Well, then it'll have to be next year. I'll wait next year. There's no way that I can't get you back on. I mean,
Sure you can. There's other people that you can bring on.
Of course. But I've had repeat offenders, and I think
I am not an offender. I was a probation officer too. Juvenile probation officer.
a woman of many talents,
Yeah.
many trades.
It's just opportunity.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
all it is.
And it's. I think you inspire people.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think you, and not you will. I think you have.
I hope so.
And I
well,
hope
at least you.
completely
Right,
inspired,
Matt?
honestly.
Yep.
At least you.
And just the drive that you've put into your life's work, just
Yeah,
because you know
it's-
it's your life's work.
It's been a wonderful ride. I mean, look at today, right?
Mhm.
I'm not a biologist, but I can do this work.
Mhm.
And I want to know what the population is of the moorhens, the pulatat. I want to know that they're thriving on Guam. I want to know they're well distributed. I want to know that they're all over. And and if they are, they will be taken off the restricted list.
Right.
And that's what we want. We want our birds back on Guam.
Right.
I don't want them in cages,
For sure.
right?
Yeah. Matt, if you didn't know, she was what did you call it during the training? A birder.
I'm
You're
a birder.
She's a birder. So she's working on a documentary for
Birds.
Birds.
Yeah. native and
How's about
migratory
that?
birds in the in Micronesia. So next in this month, I'm traveling to Saipan for a week to go birding, and I'm going to try to photograph as many of the native birds that used to be here. I have better equipment. I already have these pictures. I took them 2002, 4, 6, but I have better equipment now, so I want to give it another look. And my husband, they have the micro games in Zap in July, and so Steph says to me, he calls me up and he goes, he's making reservations. He said, "Arlene, are you going to Yap?" I said, "How long?" And he said, "You know the games are always 2 weeks." And I said, "Can I go birding?" He said, "That's fine with me." I said, "Okay, I'll go 2 weeks." If I can't go birding, I'm going 1 week.
Don't have to twist my arm.
No. And see, that's the beauty of my husband. My husband understands. I mean, I'm not an official for the Olympic movement. I travel with him, and it's a wonderful opportunity when you can travel with your husband, right?
Right.
And I'm grateful that he wants to take me. I really am.
Right.
I love traveling. He hates it. We're a great pair.
He's the yin to my yang.
Yeah, he's my husband, and he says, I'll go. My wife will die when she. What, Machu Picchu? I don't need anything. Let's go now, right? So he takes me, and he lives precariously through me
That's fantastic.
because I have a wonderful time. And he's such a creature of habit. I mean, I will taste anything except blood food. Right? I'll try anything. When we went to Switzerland, they have I forget what they call it. It's a cheese, melted cheese meal.
Okay.
You dip bread in it. Okay. Bob said, "I don't want it. It stinks. Cheese, melted cheese, smells awful. But it's delicious. And if you have it, you don't need to have it again for another 8 years." Because it's so rich. So we took our youngest son with us, and I said, "Spence, you have to go with me because Dad won't eat it." And he goes, "Well, then why do I have to?" Whining. I said, "Because you need to experience everything. I don't need to experience it if Dad doesn't want to do it." But we went, and it was so funny. His face was so precious. We sat there, and I was ready to get into it. He watched me, and he copied me, and he sat there with the bread in his mouth and the cheese in his mouth like, "I don't get it, Mom." But at least you tried it, right?
Right. My younger sister, she hated me going, eat this, because myself, I grew up picky. No. I only eat 5 food groups: nuggets, Pop-Tarts, Hot Pockets, Itchy Band. That was my food groups.
It's a good thing your mother's dead. She'd slap you across the head.
So my sister, I tried to encourage her, hey, just try this. You never know. And sometimes she's like, oh, but most of the time she's like, oh yeah. Sorry, getting the sauce on the plate, like collecting with her finger. Yeah.
We have a rule in the house. My dad had this rule. It goes in your mouth, you swallow it. So I had a very bad habit growing up. I would smell. If it didn't smell like something I wanted to put in my mouth, it didn't go in there because Dad said I had to swallow it. So guess what? It didn't go in.
It smells. Taste is 80% smell.
Which is weird because I love kimchi, right? But the thing stinks.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the way it makes my stomach feel because of all the probiotics.
Probiotics, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So I like pickles. I like all that stuff. It makes me. I can eat more when I have it.
Right.
I don't eat well. I'm not a connoisseur of food. I don't have cravings for things. I don't have to drive, all the way to Tamuning for something because it's over there.
Right.
I eat because I eat. I'm hungry. But if you give me kimchi or daiko or pickles or pickle papaya, I eat more.
Right. I will drive to Buenos and buy $3 worth of.
Yeah, it just makes food taste better.
Yeah.
My favorite food is Korean.
Korean? Oh.
Because there's so much going on there, right?
You've been there 20 times. I hope you love Korean food.
Oh, I love Korean food. And I do love Korean food.
Okay, can you help me with this? When I went to Korea, there were no breakfast places. Do they eat breakfast?
Sure they do, but they eat Korean food all day. They eat kimchi for breakfast.
Okay, that's
They don't need. They don't need. I mean, think about it, right?
I'm thinking, Egg McMuffin, and then you go to.
You're trying to put America in Korea.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
So we
Okay.
went to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, well, when you're in Korea, you live Korea. So in Korea, for breakfast, you get bibimbap.
Okay.
And bibimbap comes hot or cold.
Right.
So at dinner, I eat bibimbap hot. And for breakfast, I'll eat bibimbap cold. Or soup.
Understood.
There's like, they make wonderful soup.
Right.
Not overly done soup, but, just very, they're big on putting dry fish or squid for flavoring.
Right.
They're just delicious. I love it. It was so funny. I get into the Korean plane and Bob goes, behave yourself.
Behaviors.
And I go, I don't want to. So they'll come and they're so polite. Do you know how to eat this? Can you show me? Bob will kick me. Of course I know how to eat bibimbap. But they want to help, so I let them help.
Right. Entertain me, humor me.
I don't say that. They really are. I never flew Korean Air until after the crash because we started going, we travel more to Asia and Europe than we travel to the United States. Olympics, right?
Right.
Switzerland. Go figure. So our hub is Korea. So we're constantly going to Korea. And in order to get South Pacific, Korea. You go to Korea, down. Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, whatever, right? So we're always in Korea. Or we go to Europe, go to Germany, whatever, and you transfer there. So that's our hub. So when we started traveling Korean airline, I thought, whoa, this is a nice experience. The lounges are nice, the people are sweet, very accommodating, the comfortable. When I get on a plane, Vince, I'm out. This is the ritual. I give Bob my bag. I sit down. I put a blanket on me. I buckle. I'm sleeping before the plane takes off. There's something about that rock, that hum. And then when we hit air pockets, I love air pockets.
Oh, no.
I love it. It's like, it puts me in deeper sleep. And one time I woke up and Bob was white knuckling the handles, and I looked at him and said, "You cannot flying it." And he said, "Shut up. Go back to sleep."
One time we hit an air pocket and I was holding my cup of drink, and my drink actually came out of my cup and landed back into my cup.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Better buckle up.
I think the worst pocket that I experienced was over Alaska. About maybe a 2-minute drop. Like, is this going to stop? I mean, that one I got scared.
Oh, yeah, this one was about five seconds.
Yeah, no, 2 minutes. I don't know what that was.
2 minutes might as well be a free fall, honestly.
When we were flying over Florida, we flew through a storm, and I pulled all the shutters down. And Bob pulled them up. And I said, "Why do you want to look at that?"
Yeah.
He goes, "I want to know." I said, "I don't want to know."
I want to know the exact strike that strikes us down.
Yeah, really. If it hits, it hits. Okay, fine. I mean, we take a risk when we're flying, right?
Yeah.
Take a risk. I don't want to know.
Right.
That won't hurt if I don't know. I'll read about it later.
Oh, my gosh.
So, anything else?
No, Auntie Arlene, I am thoroughly just filled with knowledge. I just want to say that it is an honor and privilege to have you sitting in my living room and just sharing your life experience. I get a kick out of it.
It's only 3 hours.
It's only 3 hours.
You don't have enough time.
And that is why you're going to come back on the show.
I don't know what else I could share with you.
We'll
Matt,
figure it.
Is there anything you want to know?
We'll figure it out.
I think I've heard it all.
You haven't heard it all, buddy. I've had people on here, people who have come on 2-3 times, and they're like, "What are we going to talk about this time?" I was like, honestly,
yeah,
we eventually figure it out.
Yes, and that's what my Tuesday shows were like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, you know who? The only governor that was ever comfortable doing that was Carl Gutierrez. And people asked me, why do you let him on? I said, first, he's the governor.
Mm-hmm.
Second, it's not scripted. And third, he's willing to do that.
Right.
It's right there, real time. And if Governor Gutierrez could not come on the show, and I said, okay, I want to talk to your director of land management, or I want to talk to public works or whatever, that guy was there.
Right.
No other governor did that. But then again, I can't. That's not fair to say, because I wasn't doing that when Felix was governor, and I certainly didn't do that with Eddie. But both of them have always been very accommodating. And if I see them in public and say hi or whatever, I mean, you know, I don't go to the governor for anything.
Yeah, and you had the interviews, right? And
yeah, I mean, that I found interesting. I really enjoyed interviewing them. And so you'll see something come out this week of a recent interview that I've conducted, that I was asked to conduct for a specific purpose.
Awesome.
And I hope, I mean, I'm looking forward to it myself. I haven't seen it.
How can people find it?
I'll find out when you find out.
Okay, cool.
Or you find out when I find out. I don't know. I don't have the answers. I'm not in control.
Okay.
I conducted the interview, and that's it. I got paid to do it, and it was a wonderful privilege.
Right.
It's always interesting to interview people. You never know what you're going to learn.
Yeah.
From them.
I'm finding that every time I sit down with people here. And it's,
Now, you tell me, how did this start?
This.
What made you interested in this? And how do you keep that man up so late? Are you a partner in the business?
I told him
Matt?
to take a nap. Here's our producer, director of just the video. I brought Matt on. Actually, we have one guy missing, Brian. He's actually off island.
Brian who?
Leon Guerrero. So Matt Balaja and
Matt Balahaja. Matt, are you from Zonia?
Yes.
Oh, who's your parent?
you can talk into the mic, dude.
Yeah, who's your parent?
No,
Oh,
your
my
parents.
Who-
Bernadette and Vincent Balahaja.
Hazi?
Bernadette and Vincent Balahaja.
Bernadette.
Yeah.
Bernadette Balahaja. Okay.
Yeah, our moms are sisters, triplets. Yeah.
Oh, Bernadette. Your Auntie Bernadette's kid?
Yeah.
Okay, you're primo.
Yeah.
So you need to kiss me goodbye too. So Bernadette, okay.
Yeah. So
And there's a Bennett and a Bernadette.
no, that's a different side. So Bennett's on my dad's side, and then Bernie is on my mom's side.
Bernie is your mother's sister?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it. I'm
Right.
sorry. I thought you meant. And Bennett is your sister.
Is my dad? It's my dad's sister,
Don't you have a sister named Bennett?
Lonnie.
Anita is your sister.
No.
Oh.
That's I'm a generation under them.
Oh.
So that's all of them.
Oh, that's right. Tony has a sister named Bennett.
Right.
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
right.
You're Tony's son.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Now you're my. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Tony's my cousin.
Right.
Okay, so you're my kid's cousin.
Right.
Okay. For some reason there, I thought you were Anita's sibling. You're not. Got it.
Yeah.
See, it's been too long.
Yeah. That's why I was wondering when you said if your mother were alive.
Yeah,
I was like,
okay.
wait, my mom is alive.
Why didn't you say something?
Because it didn't
Click?
I think it didn't click until like a minute after we have already passed the conversation.
Okay,
So I was
I
like,
apologize.
No,
Your
it's
mother's
fine.
still alive. What is
Right.
your mother's name?
Annette.
Annette. That's right.
Right.
She's the cute little, sweet little thing. She's really nice.
She's a very busy lady.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's always so welcoming. I really like her. She's more friendly than your father. And she's not even running for public office. So let me ask this. How do you feel about your father running for lieutenant governor with Ray Tenorio?
I try not to get into that sort
Why
of
not?
detail on the show. I've sort of strayed away from politics on the show, but if you want an honest opinion,
I mean, as a son, that's a huge thing, right?
It's nothing. It's something I never grew up with, but
You didn't grow up with it?
I didn't grow up with politics. No, I was already early 20s when my dad got into politics.
I see.
So it was more of an understanding of, I do support everything that you want to pursue in your life. You know, like, this is your life. I can't not be like, no, that's preposterous. Why are you gonna do that? Right? And so
I've said that to them. Why are you going to do that?
so just the fact that it's come to this to this time, right? From the early days of
being senator,
running his own campaign, from the special election to the first election that he lost, and then the special election to the last election to now to this. It's amazing. It's amazing the journey that my dad has been through, and because
how old is he?
He's 51.
Okay,
Right, and because I never knew my dad like that. I always knew my dad as the
because you put the family first. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, and always saw him and stuff. And to go into to now put yourself in the public eye and under public scrutiny, that takes a lot.
Well,
know?
your grandfather is a politician.
Right. And so yeah, if you want to know how I feel, I'm very, very happy and excited for him because it's a new journey and a continued journey from something that spurted over 8 years ago. Right?
How old was the youngest child when he ran?
6.
Oh.
5.
Oh, when he ran for office the first time? So I have 2 younger ones under me. So yeah, one was 5, one was 9. So and you were in college?
Yeah.
There's a huge gap there.
Yeah. I'm 13 years older than the next one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like my daughters, 11 years apart.
Right. So one of them's already going into college, and I'm just the older brother, and then I have an older sister above me. So.
Oh, so there's 4 of you.
There's 4 of us. Yeah.
Okay. So he grew 2, and then
people always laugh. They're like, "Oh man, you know, how come you don't talk about politics on the show and stuff like that?" But it's you know, I think there's more to the story than just politics, right?
Oh,
and so that's
on this
why
island, politics is it.
It is a story. Yeah, you're right. And
but there are other things to do and to talk about.
Right, and other people can talk about politics if they want. People already do, right?
Sure.
So I just wanted to sort of stand out.
What do you talk about?
That.
What
on this show?
Yeah. I mean, what subject do you just have a potpourri?
I have
people that come in here.
If you look at the list of people that's been on the show, it's been pretty wide ranging from artists, painters, musicians, business people, entrepreneurs, historians, teachers, professors.
How many interviews? How many episodes have you had, Matt?
You are 147.
Shame on you.
I have a full-time job.
Why didn't you wait for 150? You should have just waited.
I should have known. I had no idea.
Sure you did. You met me already once. You should have said, "This is my 150th interview."
And just the amount of people I've had on the show, it's been an amazing journey for me. Like I said, like in the first 30 minutes that we were talking, doing something like this completely changed my life. And that's why, like, I asked you is, did talking to people and interviewing people sort of change your perspective on life? Because
it changes perspective. It didn't change my life.
Okay. Yeah, it completely changed mine. The way I understand and look at life now, I'm so much open than I was 3-4 years ago. To just, it doesn't matter if we have conflicting points of view. Why does it matter? We're not here to kill each other. We're not here to shoot each other in the face if we have differing opinions, but we can still be human and talk about it.
Yeah.
And we can still be civil and talk about it. And that's what I've always been trying to do. And people who have come on the show and we have differing views, we're still able to get through it and talk another hour and still be friendly about it after and still communicate after.
Well, again, I'm going to go back to that same need to click. It's immaturity. You need to identify with something or a group or whatever, but when you mature, you have spread your wings and left that safety net. And if you celebrate everybody's differences, if you can tolerate everyone's opinion, if you can accept everyone's belief and still identify who you are, then you've grown up. If you can't, and if it's a threat to you, you've got a lot of growing up to do.
For sure. I really agree with you.
Yeah. So, with me, I'm not interviewing you because I want to argue with you. I'm not interviewing with you because I want to change your perspective. I'm interviewing you because I want to learn about you.
Yeah. And honestly, people come on the show, they're like, why me? I was like, why me? And it's because I have there's some interest. There's something about you that interests me, and I want to know why there's so much interest. I have interest in you.
Well, now I understand the common denominator, the talk show relationship. Because I'm thinking, what part of my presentation did he hook on there?
The talk show aspect.
Because I'm thinking of you as an engineer. I'm not thinking of you as a producer, a podcaster.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, what is it? Is it birding? Is it resource? Is it historic preservation? Because I mentioned oral history, but I'm thinking, what on earth did he jump out of the seat for?
Yeah, and going back to your question of what made me do this is I wanted to be a talk show. I wanted to start my own talk show on radio, and then I was like, shit, I wonder what it takes to start your own radio station. What? God, I went 3 hours.
He's joking because he didn't cuss.
Right.
Let me share something with you about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scripture that says that what comes out of a man's mouth comes from his heart.
Oh man, don't listen to the other episodes.
So, and the other, my take on it is it stifles your intellectual ability if you're gonna just express yourself in exclamations.
Yeah, sure. And I can understand where you're coming from.
And if you want to just, shock people, then that's great. But there was this one brilliant attorney that I knew. I mean, really, really smart attorney. But I couldn't stand being in his company because every word out of him was an expletive. And it's like, really? Can you express yourself any other way? You don't need to do that.
Yeah, and I'd like to admit that I think it's part of the new generation. I think it's a part of.
It's a weakness.
Yes, to maybe someone who's looking down on the newer generation.
I'm not looking down. I would hope you guys would look up.
Because we're looking up. We're like, oh, okay. Well, I think it's just a change in. I mean, look at what you see on.
You're not the first ones to learn how to cuss.
Well, yeah. I mean, but look at what you see on social media alone.
I don't look at social media much.
From the pictures that people post, from the things that people write, and I think it's just what society has turned to. Not that cussing or cursing should be a norm or that we have to deal with it.
Then lead by example.
Well, I'm not a good role model. I'm not trying to be a role model.
You have a responsibility as a podcaster to be a role model. Lead by example.
Yeah, it's Well, we'll see how the next episode goes.
Obviously, you can do it.
Yeah, but it's I wanted to start a radio station, and I was like, I found podcasting, and it's
wonderful. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, thank you. It took me about 10 months to actually do it. I was just so nervous. I've always been the half introverted person, not really wanting to expose myself or let people know how I think or what I say or how I talk and stuff like that. And that's why I said it changed my life, because I'm not the person I was 3 years ago.
No, you can't be. If you grow.
My cup has overflowed with people's experiences, knowledge, stories, and just life experiences. It's just.
What about you, Matt? Have you benefited as well?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Benefited.
Yeah, it's just the amount of information that's coming out of it. I mean,
how many people listen to your podcast?
I'm not too sure. I'm around 50,000 downloads right now.
What?
Yeah.
50,000 people.
No, well,
50,000
downloads of all my episodes. I don't know about people. People just listen to them. And that's about it.
Yeah,
you download it off the website or the app or stuff, and just tallies up.
My granddaughter. I don't have a goddaughter. My granddaughter, Madison, said, Gammy, podcasts, you can pick and choose what you're going to listen to. Mm-hmm. I never thought I'd be on one. But it really feels no different than a talk show.
No, it's not.
This is actually nice because you are management.
Yeah, right.
It's your show.
Yeah,
So
I'm in complete control of everything I do.
And that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful thing to do.
And I'm just trying to progress it, whether it becomes a life or reality for me, and I'm not doing engineering anymore. Then I'm accepting of it. You know, I mean, I've become passionate about it, about wanting to learn about people.
Let's talk a little bit about your role. What is your role with the Forward Movement?
Of just on Guam.
Yeah, I mean, you're managing engineers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, no, I don't. I have nothing to do with any build up or anything like that.
Oh, who are you managing?
I do environmental work, cleaning up former ranges and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm in remediation and restoration.
who do you work for?
Can we talk about that offline? I mean,
Why?
I mean, it's just I don't really talk about my work online.
You asked me to get on the show to talk about me.
Yeah, well, I'm glad it's my show. Yeah, you know, I always separate what I do from, you know, at home and at work. It's just always been my MO.
Yeah, but I mean, you asked me here to tell you who I am, everything.
And that's why I love that it's my show.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we can definitely talk about it offline. We should end it before it gets too late.
Okay.
I just want to thank you. It's like I said, it's been an incredible honor and privilege to just sit down with you and pick your brain, hear your story and stuff like that. Even though you want to hear my story.
I only want a few questions. I just want to know who you work for.
I could tell you.
Yeah. But thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
appreciate it. Enjoyed it. My coffee got cold, but that's okay.
Yeah. So, do you want to put anything out, push anything? This is sort of my thank you for being on the show.
No.
Plug anything, how people can follow you.
No, because I don't have a podcast. I mean, I produce documentaries, and my documentaries and my books are available on Amazon. But that, for the moment, that's all I'm doing. I mean, when I decide if I want to do this, because this is hard work.
It is.
Yeah, and it's also I don't know if I want to invest. I have all the equipment already, everything except these stands, but that's an easy thing to get.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a dedicating the time. I can't do this at my house.
For sure. Well, I like to thank you.
But it was a nice experience. Nice meeting you and Matt.
Yeah.
And I hope that
I really enjoy how straightforward you are. This whole podcast.
You mean unlike you, right?
Ooh, right hook. Right hook.
If you're straightforward, you're straightforward.
Yeah, you know, I there's just certain things that
it's okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you understand. And yeah, if you have anything to push or people to follow you on Instagram or
in Instagram, that's a new thing for me.
Okay.
I decided to get on Instagram to share the photos of the birds. That's really what I'm doing it for.
Okay.
I don't want to take you to my lunch with me or whatever. And but did you speaking of which, let me show you something real quick.
Okay.
I don't know if your viewers can see this. Matt, are you able to?
Yeah, just put the camera on her and you can just face it. Right
Okay,
to
hold
the
on.
camera.
What I did is I'm working on a video project. I have 1 year to do research, and that wasn't exactly. That only came about because you really should publish, within a year or something.
Right.
That's not a hard, fast rule, but I'm trying to find that video. Anyway, I put a draft together of a video because you said something earlier in the show that we believe certain things. We're raised to believe certain things. So if I tell you there are no birds on Guam, you're going to believe that. And if I tell you long enough, you're going to really believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the birds fly in front of you, you're not going to see it. Well, I've been birding since 2002 in the sense that I've been taking pictures of the birds, right? But since I was a child, I've seen these birds. I grew up with these birds. I'm intimate with these birds. I know the names of these birds. And so I created this documentary because I wanted people to see that since December 2017, I've gone out and I've photographed these birds. So if these birds don't exist, then what are these? And I shared it with, it's easier to go to WhatsApp. I shared it with my contacts on WhatsApp. And I usually vet things with my contacts. So I'll run something by them, right? And I'll say, look at this. Well, they liked it so much that some of them actually forwarded it without permission. So there's a draft that's flowing out there. And so you're talking here, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to play this draft so that you all know that I'm the producer of this draft and that it's a draft and that we're working on producing video. I call them trailers, but they're really video clips of the birds. And each one that we bring out is going to be about the predation of the brown tree snake and why the birds are no longer in the wild. So in order to do that, you know, I have to establish first their existence, and I have to establish them by showing you what they are and their names. So it's not a talking piece yet, but eventually it will be. And I would like to play it, if I may.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Ooh.
Hold on. Where do I show it, Matt? Where do I put it up to?
You can put it up to here.
Okay, I'm going to have to... Are you ready, Matt?
Ready.
Okay, so I'm going to start it right now. Tell me is that okay?
Yeah, just turn down her microphone there. Her microphone, number 2. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Just go ahead and turn it all the way down because it's really picking it up. There you go. You can bring it closer if you want to the camera so that there you go. We usually we can do a picture-in-picture thing, but yeah, since we don't have it on the computer, yeah. So this is basically the trailer for what you got upcoming.
Well, I'm thinking to put...
Oh, you can turn up her. There you go. Good?
I'm thinking of doing several of these.
Yeah. There's one of these birds here that really occupy Agana. It's not the Chichuka sparrow.
That's the Eurasian tree sparrow.
Sparrow. Oh. There's like thousands of them too. Thousands, dude, for real.
They're urban dwellers.
Yeah. Yeah, they hang out in there on the balcony there. Yeah, if you're listening to the audio, you cannot see what's going on. It's basically
They can't see it?
No. Well, no, the audio. Yeah, the audio because people are only listening to it.
Oh.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to see what we're watching right now.
Oh, I thought this was video.
It's video also.
Okay.
But it's not
Okay.
only video. It's you can turn us back up, dude. Turn us
Okay.
back up there.
So what I would like the listeners to know is that I'm creating these clips of the birds, and each clip may consist of a particular bird with the idea that they are no longer in the wild here on Guam because of the predation of the brown tree snake. However, I will say that it's not just the brown tree snake that has removed them from the wild. There's also man's activities, right? There's the hunting, there's the typhoons, there are the pesticides that have been sprayed. So the reason that we say that the brown tree snake is it's a cause for predation or feeding on another wildlife is because that's kind of escalated its demise. So it was already delicate to begin with, and then they come in here and the native birds don't know how to react to that. Now, all the birds that are introduced to Guam survived it. So you have the Philippine dove, turtle dove, which has been named the island collar dove, And that's become urban. You see them all over here. They're the grayish,
Right. With like
bluish,
a bluish
yeah.
hue on their
beautiful
collar
bird,
area.
right. So that's become urban. The Sali is becoming urban. It's moved into Agana. It's in Tumon, and I believe it's also in Dedido. You have the birds that are in Cocos Island. There are no brown tree snakes there, and they're making sure that it doesn't get there. And then you've got, but like recently there was an article about the birth of a female kingfisher. Our kingfisher is different from the collared kingfisher of the CNMI. The kingfisher in the CNMI is blue and white. Ours is orange and blue, and it's one of the rarest birds in the world. And so they only exist in captivity. We would love to be able to get them back out in the wild. Yeah. Now, if the control of the brown tree snakes is kept to a point where we can repatriate our birds and bring our birds back and put them back in the wild, then they can live and we can see them again. So I'm sharing this only because I want to develop a relationship with the people and the birds. Our relationship is with the brown tree snake.
Right.
Why do we have a relationship with the brown tree snake? That's not ours. It's an introduced species, and it's a predator of our birds. So now that my grandchildren are growing up, they don't know about these birds. And so I'm doing this project primarily to educate my grandchildren and other grandchildren and people like you who are generation beneath the generation that would have seen these birds in the wild. Mm-hmm. So I was born in 55. Your father was born in what year?
67.
Okay, so he's younger than my brother Frank. So he might have still seen these birds if he, it's in Lahaina, it's still pretty, it wasn't as urban as it is today, but he would have seen these birds, but you wouldn't have seen these in the wild unless you go to the CNMI. So that's why I'm doing this. So again, it's a public effort. It's a public education effort on my part. I have no grant for this. However, when my contacts pushed it out, I received notifications, hey, I want to help you with that. And so I'm not ready to release this, and my designer and I have been working on it, and I need to go and get a better shot of the brown tree snake, because the brown tree snake is a very aggressive one. It's not a rattler, but according to the biologists who I'm going to be working with in this next year on the brown tree snake, I need to get a better image of it at the end to show that predator image. Yeah.
That attack mode.
Right.
Attack mode.
So that's my new project.
Awesome. And we definitely look forward to that, and that's when I'll get you back on the show.
Yeah. I thought this was video. Sorry.
It is.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. It is video.
But some people don't see video?
People will see the video, but most of the people that listen to the show is audio.
Okay.
Right.
I get it.
Right.
All right. So you don't do this live.
Negative.
Why not?
Just because internet sucks.
Oh, so okay. I'm sorry. I think I asked you that at the beginning.
Yeah. We do have capabilities, but it's just
okay.
It's just
so it gives you the opportunity to edit it down too, huh?
Yeah. I'd pretty much just throw it up as.
Oh, really?
As it is. Yeah.
Oh, so it is kind of live.
You're just
delayed.
Yeah, you're just gonna hear. You're gonna hear me disappear. You're gonna hear everything.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Yep. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Rlene Steffy on the show. Oh my gosh, immense amount of knowledge dropped tonight on the podcast, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Spread it around. Spread the news. We got local historian on the show, and thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure.
For us. As always, peace out, and I love you.